Last time, on Talora Tales, our heroes, which yet still don't have an official name to call themselves by, but we will refer to them as heroes until they prove themselves not to be, are woken up in the Emberbore Guild, the new establishment that they now work for in their fresh adventuring careers. As they wake up and go about their morning, they are showcased two different contracts that could potentially be their first grasp towards renown or wealth, whichever one is more important in the current moment. The party kind of drift towards a contract alluding to a attacked or ambushed wagon or caravan of some sort, the goods stolen, the people captured, with one living member returning back to town to tell the tale. As they ask a little bit more about the contract, they're pointed towards the sole survivor, who they then travel across Messidore to interrogate, though his memory is somewhat fuzzy due to the head injury that he sustained during the attack. Getting a little bit of insight and at least something to go off of, they do acquire a cart that they are being lent from the Carquin family, which is the kind of political force that paid for this shipment in the first place. Leaving Messidore and traveling west across the great plains of Runathosi, they eventually stumble upon a rancher who had been the individual who found their contact and brought him back to town in his sorry state. With a little bit of finagling with this individual, he led them to where the most recent ogre attack had happened, kidnapping one of his cattle and dragging it off into the wilderness. Our dashing heroes, with their excellent driver, navigating their wagon off the road and into the plains, follow this track up towards the mountain range over to the west before they discover the ogre slumbering very peacefully and beautifully in his sleep. Of course, being the heroic adventurers that they are, quickly dispatch the slumbering ogre without much of a chance of him to fight back, leaving him a bloody, gutted, and noseless individual for the various hyenas of the surrounding area to partake in. Now, without a direct trail to go off of, they navigate closer to the mountain range and try and suss out the location of Zavel Cavern, which is the best guess of where these supplies and people were taken after the attack, being one of the only places to kind of hide out in the immediate area. After a day of just kind of randomly wandering, more or less, they do spot this entrance with a slight blue glow to it, and hoping that this is something that they are looking for, sneak closer, and Quinn eventually peeks his head through the door. He is met with a cave or a cavern that stretches out. There is this blue fungus that he spots that is growing in various spots of the cavern, or the rocks jutting out. There was this strange, sobbing, distressed noise coming from deeper inside the cave that was drifting out towards him as his companions were kind of coming up at his signal. As we all kind of prepare to move forward, trying to suss out more and potentially find the last ogre that might be in their way to a grand success on their first contract, Thomas stumbles, his footwork not quite as exceptional as his academic knowledge, and after a brief interaction with a spider, lets the cat out of the bag, so to speak, and his voice kind of echoes down into the network before them before the sobbing noise ceases, and there is a brief moment of eerie silence, everyone kind of glancing over at one another to make sure that everyone is prepared for what's to come, before you hear the heavy thuds of footsteps that certainly signal some sort of large creature now moving deeper within. And there's only a few, maybe seconds is even a stretch, moments before you hear this low, bellowing voice kind of reverberating around the walls, eventually kind of stinging your ears, and you would hear in common, "Garlord! Garlord, is that you?" And there'd be more trumbling and thundering as you all have a very short period of time to react. So what are you all doing?
I'm sorry. It was a spider. It was this big.
Not now. Not now.
Quick, little
Sam
time.
would,
Yep.
I would immediately stick his
of the
wand in.
Of the two tunnels we have in front of us, which one seems to be the source of the noise coming towards us?
Give me a perception with disadvantage.
He gets a 12.
Okay. Do you have a bonus to that, sir?
Yeah, +2, so it'd be 14.
Okay. As everything is happening in Braynoon, you are trying to stare into the darkness and lean on your ears to try and gather what area this thing might be coming from. Again, this cavern being so entangled, it's very difficult to get a precise location. But there was that bridge that kind of was higher up on the left and slowly descended down to the right that's about 30 or 40 feet off to your east and about 15 feet up off the ground. And as you're trying to isolate the noise, it does seem that it's either coming from one end of the bridge or past the bridge. So it's most definitely stronger off in your eastern direction.
Okay. I want to like usher the group back out of the tunnel.
Yeah, I was gonna step outside
Hushing them and
and-
shushing them.
and around the corner, some out of sight line of the.
Okay. So we'll just go ahead and say that instead of moving everything, you all kind of duck outside of the cave at this point, and you would hear that kind of thundering stop. And it's pretty easy to assume or kind of guesstimate that whatever was moving is now kind of stopped, isolated on that bridge, that general area being where the last footstep came from. And there's this heavy, intense breathing that you can hear even from this distance. I know Discord did not bring that up, but that's fine. Just picture it in your brain. But yeah, there would be no movement after that point. There would just be several seconds of that heavy breathing as the scene progresses, and you guys all kind of duck behind the general entrance area.
So I'm gonna give this a shot. From outside the tunnel, just sort of bring one hand to my mouth, and after a moment goes by,
Give me deception.
He gets an 18.
plus 7, so 25.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Are you attempting to convince him that you're a goat or explain away the noise as a goat?
Explain away the noise as a goat.
Okay.
Damn it, I was hoping you were trying to get him out there.
Thomas, this is a strange question, but
Yes.
leaning on your portent, how exactly do you imbue your divine gift upon Quinn to enhance his goat-like abilities?
I can tell when I've got an attunement to people that it's hard to put a finger on, but I can tell when they're thinking about something and trying to make a decision. And I know that a lot of times it's hard for people to get past that initial barrier of whatever is pushing them one way or the other. And it's almost like a flash of an insight that I can tell more or less what they're thinking about, just in the most general of terms, and then that I can give them that flash without them really even knowing what's happening. So it kind of solidifies their understandings of what they're thinking about.
So, Quinn, as you are hunched over preparing to produce this noise, to bleat your heart out, you do meet eyes with Thomas for a split second, and you kind of feel the veil of hesitation kind of lift ever so slightly. Some of the encumbrance of potentially mistaking the noise or embarrassing your attempt is kind of lifted as you are allowed to kind of fully embody this creature, releasing the noise off into the air, hearing it echo down into the cave beside you. There again is that kind of like heavy, deep breathing, and then following this kind of snuffling, sniffing sound, clearly trying to, I guess, confirm its suspicion. But a few more moments go by before you just hear, and then this thud as it begins to drift further back into the cave.
And I just to add to that, I would have picking up on what he was doing. I would have prestidigitated kind of the musk of a sheep.
Okay. But you would all hear the creature receding back into the cave, potentially where he was, as you are left moderately where you begun.
Well, who's up for waiting till this one falls asleep?
What time of day is it?
It's about nighttime now. You guys arrived up here as the evening was kind of setting in, and now it's probably to give you a time, maybe 8 or 9. It's like actual nighttime.
Is it entirely against the rules, maybe to go to the nearest town and get the constable or something to? I mean, after all, it's their lands, and they should probably be the ones to be helping take care of the threats on.
Fennel put put a hand on Thomas's shoulder. Thomas, it's all right.
It's a spider.
Just breathe. Just breathe.
I am breathing.
Look,
Or else I'd be dead, and that's what's going to happen to us if we go inside that tunnel with the spiders and the ogres.
Thomas, look, Mr. Quinlan. Do you think you can slip in and maybe see what exactly we're dealing with?
Is James frozen?
James,
I couldn't tell he is frozen.
I couldn't tell. I thought he was just being James.
Because he literally pulls that face all the time. That is superb. I don't know what happened to him. Oh, hey!
he's back.
What happened?
Discord crashed hard, like crashed the entire computer hard. Had to restart.
James, you were frozen,
And we
but
couldn't tell.
You were frozen in concentration, and we were like, James. And we couldn't tell if that was just you thinking.
Love it.
What did you hear last, sir?
I heard Sven asking, "Could you?" And then that was it.
Okay, yeah, he asked if you could slip in, and I guess scout was the question, right?
I'd get a better idea of what we're up
Okay,
against.
so
Absolutely.
back in.
19 for my still. And so, yeah, as in answer to the question, I just slip around the corner and pad down the path.
As Sven, as you were still kind of asking the question, he just kind of like, and then just drifts like a shadow around the corner.
And
So what are
I'm
you-
gonna go the other. Let's see. I'm gonna go to the left.
Okay. Is that all revealing for you properly, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So as you shift around the corner, you do see much of the same kind of terrain. It's very clear it's a natural dug cave or tunnel. It's maybe on this particular offshoot a little bit shorter, but there are these kind of parts of the cave that kind of collapsed or settled. These big, almost kind of like rock boulder barricades kind of jutting out from the different walls. There is a much larger, clearly like animalistic skeleton off to your left as you're stealthing forward. There is that similar blue light that you've identified as some sort of mushroom or fungi, and I will go ahead and give you that, sir. There we go. You don't, off the top of your head, identify this, but it is this somewhat almost ethereal-esque looking thing. It produces this glowing blue hue. The tendrils kind of slowly like twirl themselves in, almost like they're sentient or intelligence in some manner, but it's a lot more like nerves kind of just reflexing and retracting and kind of doing random movements to kind of keep itself stimulated. But you would pass by a small bunch of those off to your left as well as you continue forward.
Do I require proficiency to attempt a nature check?
No,
For
good. Give me a nature check.
Only 7.
Okay. Yeah, given the lack of context and the lack of time, it would be too difficult to kind of precisely figure out what it is.
All right, well, I'm going to proceed.
Okay. Feel free
I'm going to
move
stay away
yourself.
from it just because it's giving off light.
Mm-hmm. So as you inch further and further, you're following that kind of dried blood trail that has very clearly been dragged over things and kind of rubbed against things. Like if there's like a rock or something that was on the floor, something had been kind of dragged up and over it, leaving kind of a splatter on it. There are more skeletal remains, and now the beginnings of webs and a bit more frequency, and they are pretty thick and dense. The strands being maybe like 3 or 4 times the normal thickness that you would kind of, I guess, like identify as a normal cobweb. Off to your north, at that kind of little alcove that's cut into the earth, you see a corpse, and it's hard to identify precisely, but it's clearly weeks old, maybe even more, and it is in the kind of last states of rot or decay, the flesh kind of dribbling down off of the bones, but it is very clear, just like a passing glance, that starting from like the base of its chest all the way down to its navel, there is this grotesque wound, kind of almost looking like a cannonball had shot out the back of it and erupted through the front of his body, leaving it just this mess of guts and innards, just kind of that are already rotting as well.
All right, I want to peek around the corner.
Mhm.
Signs of bogies, contacts.
You would still see the trail kind of now curving off down southwards as you see it going around that corner. But besides that, it is very much a similar look in front of you. There are more of those spotted blue fungus. There is now also a cave that kind of extends far off into the east that you kind of lose track of in your dark vision.
All right, I'm going to scooch close enough to investigate this corpse,
All right.
and that's gonna be a 21.
Okay.
And so there, without any hesitation or signs of squeamishness, just getting up to this corpse and like very gingerly, just like with a gloved middle finger, just sort of gently prodding as I take the measure of what happened to this poor person.
So as you grow closer and kind of crouch down, there is that thick, pungent smell of foul, of just death and decay, just like assaulting your nose, as this is just a fresh corpse left out to be exposed. It still is kind of in a cool cave, which helps a little bit, but only a little bit. As you get closer and kind of actually reach forward, as you press your finger against one of the, I guess, entrails that is kind of like dipped up and over his ribs and kind of strays off to the side, you see this kind of like squiggling, wriggling mass on the inside before you realize there was kind of a hole that had been like clenched shut by the muscle or the flesh, and a spider goes bursting out of the gut and goes darting down into the darkness. What you would see is that it is a little bit difficult to, I guess, get a real good look at, but it is this black, kind of headless spider, almost looks like a beetle to some extent, and it has these thick, bloody cracks or veins or just like separations in the exoskeleton, and it just darts from his guts and then scatters onto the floor and then into one of the rocks nearby and disappears.
Okay.
Give me another nature check.
13.
You have not experienced things like this before, but being as well traveled as you are, you have heard about parasites of this type that occasionally or often use a host or a person or a body to feed itself and then expand or reproduce. And so trying to connect the dots, it's not incredibly difficult to realize that whatever this thing is, which you can't quite identify yet, might have been the source of the eruption out of this individual's midsection.
Is there like a water skin or a satchel or anything like that on this cadaver?
There would certainly be like, yes, small remnants of his equipment. I would say maybe like a coin pouch or something would be easy to find.
Even better. So I am going to take whatever small pouch I can locate. Is it empty, first of all?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to use my dagger, one of my daggers, to carefully take a chunk that is not infested as far as I can tell, and place it inside this pouch and attach it to my person.
Okay.
And then proceed with my scouting.
So the rest of the party, as Quinn is dipped into the cavern and you hear absolutely nothing besides that continual sobbing noise that still drifts from the entrance, what are you all doing?
I have almost immediately casted mage armor on myself.
Same. Yeah, Sven would be drawing the arcane lines top of his skull to bathe him in.
Yeah, normally this would be a pretty simple spell for Thomas, but never having cast under any sort of perceived pressure like this, I'd be fumbling through my book and kind of making sure I've got it right. Okay. And
I am staying as absolutely still as possible and am focused wholly on that wailing noise, listening for any change in volume or just anything that might indicate it's headed back this way or it's getting further away, or even just the like intention behind it has changed, like from sadness to anger to whatever. So I'm focused entirely on that.
Give me another perception real quick.
And while he's doing that, I'm kind of recalling some of the remedial training I got. I remember somebody telling me once that, Mr. Sparkles would make a pretty good battlefield scout. And so I settle in to try to be a little more useful, and I set him down, and and Thomas knows this. He knows that when I'm inside the creature, I'm kind of lost to the world. So I keep one hand on Thomas as a point of reference, and then I let Mr. Sparkles go, and he's going to go on a recon mission.
One hand on Sven, I'm assuming.
Sven, yeah, sorry.
Sven would point over to Brainoon. Brainoon, you want me to enchant your weapon?
It's almost as soon as you start speaking, Brainoon is putting a hand up and a finger, just like asking you to, essentially asking you to. I had a 19 on that perception, so.
Okay. As Sven tries to interrupt your focus, kind of like waving him away for a moment, as you are really focusing in on the noise and kind of any sort of alteration that takes place, it is this continual, almost like methodical, just relentless release of just sadness, of this like unfiltered raw emotion. But every couple seconds or so, like 5 or 10 seconds, the voice gets a little bit lower, and you do hear it muttering some sort of word. It even does sound vaguely common, but it is so far enough away that you can't really decipher the words, but it is like this like and then it would pick back up in the kind of like violent sobbing.
Okay, based on that, I'm assuming it's more whatever this creature is talking to itself, not necessarily talking to like there's no waiting for sort of response or any pause between whatever this muttering is and the wailing.
That would be hard to give you an answer one way or the other, but yeah, you could assume one way or the other.
At that point, I'll look over to Sven. I'm quite alright. That's my weapon is fine as is.
You wish.
And then back to listening.
Are you sending in Mr. Sparkles, Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay. I honestly should have made Mr. Sparkles a token. I did not even think about that. What do I have? Probably nothing great. We're gonna make Sparkles a little imp. There we go. And then let me different size, give you control, and let me give him view as well. All right, Sparkles should be good to go now.
All right. Did I see which way Quinn went?
No idea.
Or would I have seen it?
Probably not. If you all are kind of tucked away and Quinn made a very decisive motion to not be seen, you had no idea.
Okay. I will leave it up to Mr. Sparkles to decide then. I'm going to use this percentage dice. 1 to 50, he goes left, and above, he goes right. He goes left.
All right.
And so I'll have him scouting down the same hallway, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. While Mr. Sparkles is moving, do you want to give me a quick nature check, sir?
Nature check? Sure.
Yep.
For Sparkles?
Yep.
That's
Well, it would technically be you.
Oh, that's right.
because-
That's me.
yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That is a 9.
Solid. You also cannot, I guess, identify the mushrooms that you pass by, but ooh, pretty blue lights, and keep going forward. So, Quinn, as you are shifting your way through, having done your investigation and collecting that kind of small bundle of flesh, you do hear this kind of like very soft, like, and then you would look back and see Sparkles kind of like leaping into view from behind you.
Sparkles would wave one little paw. And then I would scutter past.
What are you doing, Quinn?
Under the circumstances, I'm just going to continue with what I was.
So during this whole kind of movement up to the north and then directing back to the east, you have been kind of going upwards, this kind of gradual slope. It does get kind of increased once you look down that southern pass, and you see that the bridge that you had spotted when you first come in is what you're now kind of looking over. You are coming up at the top of the bridge and then going down towards whatever is kind of hidden past that. So that would be what's kind of down to your south. As the east is a much tighter fit. It's maybe like 10 feet in a diameter versus the kind of 30-ish feet that you've been dealing with before. And it's clear that the kind of rubble laying right in the entrance as it breaks away from the main cave, that nothing big has actively moved through here in quite some time, but it is passable as far as you can see.
And with Sparkles, I'm assuming that this is blood on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the easiest thing for him to perceive. So I'm just following that blood trail.
You want to go ahead and give me a stealth for Sparkles?
Sure. Let me pull up his stat block.
Quinn, which direction are you choosing to go, sir?
Well, if he's going that way, I guess I'll go this way.
Dirty 20.
Okay. So you both can still kind of proceed at your own pace. Have kind of the freedom at this point.
I have lost any sort of vision on Sparkles.
Have you now?
Yeah. I'm seeing Quinn's vision, but not mine.
Sparkles probably doesn't have the lighting
No, he should.
sense. No.
That is odd. There? Still don't see it there?
No.
Oh, why?
Let me see. I can hack the system a little bit and move Thomas with him.
Oh,
both
wait a
have-
second. I know why.
Okay.
Did that work? That worked. Here.
Yeah.
That should be fixed. There we
Yeah.
go. Sorry about that. Okay. But, yeah, Quinn, I don't think I have to go through the description of the cave over and over. You are more or less kind of going around this curve. You are certainly growing closer to the noise. Sparkles, you as well would be hearing the noise getting much more clear and close in proximity. Sparkles, go ahead and give me a perception check as you're moving through that room.
He actually gets advantage on that, and he gets a 14.
Okay. Give me a wisdom saving throw.
For Sparkles,
Mm-hmm.
13.
Okay. As Mr. Sparkles is kind of like scurrying across the room, these kind of like almost slinky like hops, there is that quick sniff, that whiff of rotten flesh that Quinn had kind of perturbed earlier and Sparkles had kind of moved past. Now as you shift through the room, off to your east, you do spot another kind of bloated, exploded corpse. It's, again, guts kind of strewn in the general area around it. And Sparkles is kind of like... And you can feel your mouth kind of salivating, even though you are in control of Sparkles. There's just like impulse to like go towards it.
Sparkles, no. I'll feed. You can eat later. You don't even need to eat.
I guess the compromise, you just kind of like licking the flavor out of the air, basically.
All right. Assuming he's not inexorably drawn that way, I'll keep moving south.
Yeah. So I guess it'll probably be Sparkles first. The dynamic lighting is a little awkward here. Let me, for now. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Give me a moment. I'm going to remove, if it will let me, I'll just go ahead and delete this. There we go. Sweet. Okay. So as Sparkles kind of moves forward into this area, it is clear that this is where the cavern kind of like fully opens up. The ceiling probably gets maybe like 40 feet above Sparkles, which looks like a fucking like endless mass for this small creature. And there's another kind of bridge that you are passing over. It looks like a bunch of kind of larger rocks that almost wedge themselves in this kind of janky archway that down off to Sparkles' right, which is to your west, there is this pit of those blue fungal mushrooms that you can see. And then off to your left or your east, that is where the room kind of opens up. And there is a drop that's about maybe 20 feet from where you stand now and this kind of similar altitude platform kind of off in front of you. And where you are set, or where Sparkles is set, you are able to see more of the bloated corpses kind of on the ground, and then boxes, like freshly crated, nailed, stored boxes. And they're kind of all stacked up and piled up down that kind of basin below you. Go ahead, give me a perception check. And Quinn, what are you doing currently?
Just scouting the other way, the way that he didn't go, rounding that corner, listening out, looking out.
Sparkles is in fuego tonight. Another dirty 20.
Okay.
He has advantage. So.
As you are perched on this kind of massive drop for Sparkles, which again is like a skyscraper's worth of height, you can see with Sparkle's precise little ferret vision these tiny black dots kind of crawling all over the boxes, kind of scuttering around. And as you really like try and identify them, you too can now spot the same insect that Quinn interacted with, just kind of coating the outside of the crates. They're crawling everywhere inside the little slats, like up vertically, the sides of them. They are just plastered with these strange black and red creatures.
Do I recognize them from anything I studied?
Go ahead, give me a... We'll go with nature check again.
That is a +5, 16.
Okay. You don't know specifics about them off the top of your head, but you are aware that you have read up on these things at some point in your preparations to come into Runathosi or your studies at the academy. Oh, excuse me. They are known as black burster spiders. And the main thing that kind of stuck in your mind about them, despite all the other smaller tidbits that you probably want to remember, is they are parasitic hosts. They grow inside of living organisms and then destroy them once they are fully, I guess, grown up. And that's the real standout memory that you would have of such things, and you would clearly identify them as such.
Okay, I'll communicate to Mr. Sparkles. Okay, Sparkles, just hide. Stay here. I'll be back with you in a minute. Thunk. I look over at Thomas. Thomas,
Sven.
or Sven, sorry. I look over at Sven. Can you tell Quinn to be careful? The cave is infested with black burster spiders.
I can try. Don't know what those are. Are those dangerous?
Yes, if I recall, they're not particularly venomous or painful, but they get inside of you, and then once they're inside of you, they eat you, and then they burst out. And they're black, so black burster spiders. So, just tell him to be careful, because I didn't, but Sparkle saw a lot of them, and they were all over the boxes. So, leave the boxes alone.
Rainer.
Okay, I'm going back.
I'm not sure if we should head in. You know, not much experience for the two of us. Should we wait?
It'd probably be best to hear from Quinlan before we do anything. Yeah,
True.
right name.
Right. And so Sven will attempt to cast a message there out to Quinlan. I do believe he is too far, but
It's 120 feet?
it is. However, I would have to travel around corners and whatnot. And I don't
Yeah.
think I have the range on that one.
Um,
But just kind of send out, attempted of a,
are you moving forward, Quinn?
I am.
Okay, we could probably say that as this is going on, you're kind of reaching the end of that cavern, which would probably be in range. You might pick it up like a few words in.
Like a walkie-talkie or something.
It looks like kind of static in your ear. You're like, what the?
Quinn, there's spiders. Be careful of spiders.
I saw.
Oh, good. Okay. Something about bursting. So, be careful.
I gathered.
Good.
Quinn, why don't you give me a nature check with advantage real quick, now that you've been kind of put down the right path.
Only a 10.
You, with the context clues you've been given abundantly by your companions, you can recall their name is Blackburster, but you still cannot suss out details.
I think
So
I've
Quinn,
got the details that I need.
as you reach the end of this offshoot that kind of returns back to that main tunnel that you first looked into, you'd see off to your west that kind of bridge again that's like up in the sky, and then the tunnel kind of through it that you can pass through. As you stop and you can see down to the south the crates and boxes that have now been identified as covered in spiders, which you can confirm, there are really heavy, clear drag marks through this area, looking as if like big sections of something weighty has been kind of ground against the earth. There is another kind of bloated corpse kind of shoved off to the side in this passage, and there are clearly that almost like kind of make you laugh, and you have to hold yourself back from indulging in that in this tense moment. These thick, clumsy strings that are covered in like bone parts tied across this passage, and they are so obvious and clear. They're like every 10 or 15 feet or so, that like nothing would ever trip these things by accident.
A valiant effort. I'm gonna keep going.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Get close to the boxes now.
I'll go ahead and move him there. Yep. Okay. So, as everybody is inching forward, Thomas back in Sprinkles and Quinn in your own body, entering this larger cavernous room, you spy up that kind of 20-foot tall cliff face that's now facing you, where the crates are down at the bottom. Up above, you probably only get maybe like from the waist up because of the height difference that you're at right now. It is strikingly similar to the ogre you had dispatched the night previously. For a second, you almost kind of wonder if he's been reincarnated in some sense in front of you. But he has a lot less weight on him. He's not as over-bloated and engorged as the ogre that you had dealt with. He is a lot more lean and fierce. He has more muscle tone and less anger across his actual facial features. He is now currently in this like kind of like almost overly dramatic kind of like stage show frown, like fresh tears kind of working down his muddy face, leaving these like one clean line of flesh that you can spot. In his right hand is this massive bow. It is kind of like a young sapling of some sort that has been strung by this thick leather rope, and it is strained beyond belief, and you can see the wood kind of like creating little tension lines up it as it is clasped in his hand, almost stretching from about his knee up past his head. It's maybe 4 or 5 feet tall. It's a lengthy piece of weaponry. In his left hand, almost in like a Romeo-esque play, he has his hand held up, and you see the entire like last 2 feet of it coated in this swarm of spiders. It is a thick gauntlet of these moving, small, terrifying creatures that are all just kind of like swarming around his flesh and kind of gathering in this mass, and he is clearly speaking to them as some sort of like affectionate pet, perhaps, as he is just wailing and like letting out his grief to these very small companions. He is entirely unaware of what's going on around him. Sprinkles, you'd be seeing the same thing, as that is what you are able to spy.
It's horrifying.
All right, I'm gonna freeze where I am.
Okay. Sparkle doing anything specifically?
He is crapping himself in proxy for Thomas right now.
Okay.
Well, no, he's. I'd be frozen at this point.
Give me another quick perception check for Sparkles. And this is at advantage because he gets keen smell or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. 22.
God damn. Mixed with the foul stench of rotten flesh that you could very clearly identify coming from the corpses that have been ripped asunder, Sparkles, being the blood aficionado that he is, kind of perched on the side, his nose actively like working overtime, also able to take in the rather unwashed flavor of the ogre standing before him. Sparkles can clearly identify fresh blood, and I think Sparkles is able to see kind of off into an alcove past the ogre, maybe even like between his legs. You only get the corner glimpse of it, and it's also kind of right at the edge of your dark vision. There's clearly a mound of things, potentially clothes, bodies, lumber, containers, bottles, but there's just like this kind of shoved up against the corner mass, and Sparkles can kind of almost like a cartoon smell trail can trace this fresh scent of blood back to that corner.
Just kind of keep into the shadows. He'll creep forward just a little bit more to get a better view, and yeah, that's horrifying.
Give me another stealth check.
A 10.
Ooh. So as Sparkle's kind of like pressing his body to the ground, it's becoming this like furry caterpillar, inching further and further and further. You get to the point where you can kind of lay his head down and peering across the kind of level surface. It is still somewhat undefined due to the dark vision, no color really being attributed to this scenery. But it looks like the most rudimentary and grotesque nest you've ever seen. There are distinctly these two kind of coves or bowls or basins that serve as some sort of like sitting or curling or resting position for what you assume to be an ogre-sized individual, and around it are tattered clothing and rags and banners and flags, kind of all crammed into this really janky structure of broken tree limbs and wooden planks and kind of hollowed out barrels. And right around kind of the edge of this nest, you see fresh corpses that are clearly not the weak old bloated ones that you've passed by so far, but either recently deceased or living but bleeding on the ground before you. And as Sparkles is kind of like getting a fresh scent of blood, potentially like a little bit more drool kind of working down his tiny chin, the ogre ceases his sobbing, this kind of like quick stiffness going up in his frame. And as he like lowers his hand full of spiders and then spots Sparkles just making perfect eye contact with him.
Sparkles is gonna, being controlled by Thomas, is gonna look him right in the eye, almost frozen like a cobra looking, and then just thunk, he's gone.
So, Quinn, as you are watching this kind of in real time, your breath kind of pausing for a moment to see what might happen, you see the ogre do this, the sobbing ceasing, his breathing pausing for a moment before Sparkles disappears, and he kind of and then kind of goes back to indulging himself in despair.
They don't need a report. Sparkles has the report, so I'm just gonna stay frozen right now and just sit tight. I am going to. I'm guessing that among these crates, if not all of the crates, somewhere in the crates are the stuff from the wagon that was bushwhacked.
I think, yeah, they're in a decent enough amount of unkemptness that you can kind of peer at the container's contents and spy these like kind of thick glass bottles with this twine kind of wrapped around the middle, which is a very signifying look for the deep wood cider. And from the 3 or 4 crates you can kind of see and identify at this point, You can probably assume this is your stuff.
Well, I'm just gonna hunker down and use my coin purse of viscera, my little potpourri sachet, and just make sure that I am not putting off a living half-elf smell and just a dead guy smell.
All right. So our 3 steadfast companions outside the cave, what are you all doing?
I assume I picked up on the brief ending of the sobbing about the same time that Thomas comes back to his senses.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just gonna look at him with... It's almost concern. It's like he's very much in this mindset of something's about to happen, I need to be ready for that. But so he's sort of emotionally disconnecting himself. But he looks at Thomas, what happened?
There's the big ogre. It's like the big brother, but maybe like a twin, or but I mean, it's really not. It wasn't fat. It was lots of muscle. But there's dead dwarves everywhere, and lots of blood, and spiders were everywhere. And then he had his whole hand with spiders. Like they weren't even. It was like he was friendly with them. He was talking to this, but like he's. I don't know. Like it's an ogre with spiders. Please don't go in there.
Still emotionally disconnected. What can you tell us of the layout of where you got to where you were?
Okay. And then all right, and I look around. Is there a stick? Is there a dirt on the ground?
Yeah, there's enough like dust that you could probably maneuver.
All right, so I'll kick the area clean with my boot, and then I'll take a stick, and I'd like to think I could draw a reasonably good representation of the map and
Mhm.
and what I saw and where I saw Quinn at the points I saw him,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of point out the location of the ogre. I mean,
Yeah, kind of missing the eastern part that Quinn explored. You can
Right.
more or less recreate a rudimentary shape of the cave.
And it feels good. It feels good to Sven or to Thomas to be doing a more or less an academic exercise at this point.
Glancing into the cave, am I able to see that bridge from the entrance, or do I have to go in a bit?
Yeah, you can see, just kind of like peeking your
Okay.
head around, you do see it kind of slanting down across your vision.
Right. Can I get a sense of the width of the bridge, any sort of like its structural integrity? Like, I'm assuming it's it's not something that was made,
Yeah.
but just kind of what, given, granted, not like I'm a actual, true dwarf lived in the mountains, but just kind of glancing at it from a construction type of mindset, just want to get a sense for how well it would hold up in certain circumstances.
Yeah, sussing it out as best as you can from your distance, staring off into the darkness. It very much looks like years and years of debris kind of fell in this area, maybe having been carved out by the cave, like to the south or the north of it, and being dumped across this kind of passageway. And so there's a lot of layers of like sedimentary rock kind of building up to the top, and then it looks like some sort of large, flatter slab of a stone was kind of thrown over it and then set in place again by age, years and years of debris and whatnot kind of being stamped down on top of it. And then maybe potentially a little bit more recently, it looks like someone has like carved or dug or struck that like archway through it that leads into the cave that it kind of blocked previously. And that's maybe 15 feet at the top of the arch, and then the bridge being about 15, 16, 17 feet at its highest point. So.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm just kind of... Brainier's just kind of working through various potential choke points and yada 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 based on the drawing he has and what he can see.
Sven, any input, sir?
I think that given the drawing and the taste of glory on his tongue, Sven's going to go ahead and slip in. Kind of slip in, start following that same path.
As I see him start to walk in, I'll kind of reach out and grab him by his tail. Like, where are you going?
We need to get in there.
We're still reconnoitering the area. They're not ready for warriors yet. Sven, just
What? Hold on. And sticking his wand up against his throat, whispers out to Quinn. Quinn, do you need our assistance? Are we good to go? What do you see?
The same thing Sparkles saw. I probably shouldn't literally whisper. Does that come through the mic?
No, that was fine. That worked.
The same thing Sparkles saw. I'm okay. If I'm not, you'll know it.
Are you poised to strike?
I can be, if that's where this is headed.
Well, given the amount of concern Thomas had, I think perhaps we should get one on whatever beast this is.
Doesn't know we're
Okay.
here. We can lay an ambush.
Yes, I noticed Mr. Brainerd there looking at a bridge. Do you know it?
I'm looking at the backside of it.
Then kind of leaning over towards Brainerd. Are you eyeing that over there? Do you think we should perhaps lure the beast?
I was merely looking to see whether we could make tactical advantage, though we had previously discussed waiting for the beast to fall asleep before we struck.
Perhaps we should try to get set up.
I'm gonna creep in the direction of the bridge and see if I can get a sense of its structural integrity.
Give me a quick dexterity saving throw.
$17.
Okay. So as you are skulking away from the ogre that has now been spotted, kind of returning back towards that bridge, you spot one of those bloated corpses kind of jammed in the corner, almost like someone just like carelessly kicked it off of the path that had, been clearly used to transport the goods. As you're passing by, still with your bag of potpourri by your side, just the amount of like air that you displace moving through this area causes the body to kind of like sag ever so slightly, the head kind of shifting, the arm kind of flailing out and hitting the ground. And all of a sudden, not with any sort of noise or force, you look down and there was nothing, and then suddenly there is a swarm of these black and red spiders at your feet, and you kind of dance away, kind of like lifting your legs up to like a high knee before you kind of like squat down nearby, and they all kind of like react like they were like trying to search for something or find something scattering across the ground before they all kind of like and then begin slowly receding backwards as they do not have any sort of target to latch onto.
All right, I'm gonna wait for them to settle before I continue.
So just kind of like for maybe like 10 seconds as they finally all kind of like, you hear this incredibly disconcerting sound of like this I know, again, that does not pick up, but this, like, squelching, almost like a spider crawling through hot butter noise. Picture it, it works.
And then back to examining this natural bridge.
Mm-hmm. You would more or less see about the same identifiers as Bray Noon. It's been here for quite some time. It is rather thick and large. It clearly has supported the ogre once, twice, if not multiple times. And it's a fairly large endeavor to potentially compromise this.
All right, I'm gonna return to the group.
Okay, I gotta do that because it doesn't like you moving. There we go. All right. So you all would watch Quinn kind of skulking through that archway before slithering down the hallway towards you.
There are crates at the rear of the cave. I'm sure the ones we want are in there. Any dead body you see is a potential hazard for those spiders. And last I saw, the other ogre is wandering around off to the right on the upper level.
Should we just wait?
Yes, I think that's a great idea because I didn't see any food in there, and he's gonna have to leave to come out here to eat at some point. And it would be better to be out here than in there.
Looking more towards Quinlan, since I feel like I'll look at Thomas as well. Were there signs of any survivors, any of them that might still be living?
Everyone looked brutally mangled and quite dead to me.
I didn't pick up on anything but the ogre and the spiders.
Then kind of directing more towards Quinlan. Do you think there's any chance we can get what we need out of the cave without the ogre's intervention?
Without the ogres, maybe, but not without the spiders. I don't know where they are nesting in this cave. They seem to be every few feet. And they almost swarmed me. So I really don't see how we get anything of any size out of there without dealing with the spiders.
Did I perceive any sort of opening other than the main entrance to this cave?
It seems like as far as Sparkles and Quinn and all you're moving around, that this is one entrance kind of thing.
Look, I know that you can. I don't know if it applies to ogres, but we can. I've seen smoke be used to clear out bears from their dens. Seems like maybe it would work if we could build a large fire and he would have to come out or probably die or maybe die before he came out. But I don't want to go back in there.
No, that's a good idea. I like that.
Quickly looking around, because we, as I recall, we're up on the kind of mountainside. Do we have enough wood around us so they're trees to pull
There's a
from?
cart.
We have a cart not so far away.
Yeah.
If you were to go collect lumber for a fire, it would be a process, certainly.
Yeah.
We can load up to 500 pounds on a disc. And
It's a matter of finding 500 pounds.
Yeah. Look. Why don't we just give it 3 hours? Mood will be high in the sky. Just listen out for the snores. And then go in like we did with the other one.
And by go in, you mean wait out here and go in on him as he comes out?
No, Thomas, we must be brave. We shall go into the den of the monster and strike it.
I would prefer to say we must be intelligent and wait for the monster to come out here, which he has to do at some point.
Well, gentlemen, as you two are the more savvy of the four of us, what gives you better odds?
If we can take first blood while it's asleep, that starts the engagement off on the right foot, certainly.
Spiders were his friends. I could tell it. I think they would wake him up if they saw us. They would tickle his nose or something.
Who's to say if the spiders aren't his friends that they aren't going to bring it food and it never leaves the cave?
Sounds like
it's an ogre. They're small. They don't carry anything.
Thomas. I'm sorry. We must do this. Stay behind me.
You can be assured of that.
Then, gentlemen, short nap maybe, and go about it once it has fallen asleep.
I can, if we must do this, I can. Mr. Sparkles doesn't need sleep like we do. I can have him watch and report back when he's snoring.
Works for me.
Delightful.
So basically, we're settling in until there's signs of sleep.
So are you trying to get Sparkles back in a advantageous
Yeah.
position?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll go ahead and give you stealth advantage because you know the terrain and you're probably taking your time. So go ahead and roll me that.
Natural 20.
All right. Ping for me where you would like to put Sparkles.
Oh, where I'd like to put him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, I'm going to have him at all times to where I can just perceive the ogre.
Okay.
So if he has to kind of move with it or not.
Yeah.
But he's going to just remain on the far edge of his vision. And then, so that's what he'll be doing.
For now, just to keep you guys vision open, I'll put him there for you.
Okay.
All right. So as everyone kind of finds their way out of the cave, having thoroughly explored it without any sort of horrendous issue, Rob, mute your mic, you regroup and come up with a plan, sending Sparkles back in there as Thomas. I assume, are you taking control of Sparkles, or are you letting him go in and do his own thing?
Cowboy, sorry. No, I'm not going to take control of him. He's kind of static dynamic, as it were. Like I said, he'll be doing his best to stay hidden, away from spiders, and just perceiving when the ogre falls asleep. Okay. Now, do you want me to stay linked to him doing that, or can he comprehend well enough if I gave him that simple, like, let me know when he's asleep?
We kind of went over this with Aurora. I imagine if you're familiar, like, needs to get your attention, there's some sort of connection or ping or sensation that he can send you. So you could easily give him the command of, like, watch this and then update me when something changes, and then you could, like, shift into his eyes if need be.
Okay, as long as we're okay with that, that's what we'll do. And I'll be present with the group.
Gotcha. So as night settles in, now it's probably getting closer to midnight at this point as the moon is slowly ascending up into the sky, the eternal thread kind of snaking around it, almost like a ghostly hand kind of touching it and then drifting away. Sparkles is left to observe, and the din of darkness kind of settling in. It is a deliberate task or process or challenge to avoid the alluring smells of fresh blood kind of swirling around his nose, but every so often he's like and keeps to his task, not wanting to fail in his duties. The ogre would probably continue its grieving for another hour or so, a pretty lengthy period of time, before eventually it would begin to grow more and more silent, clearly being somewhat weary of displaying this much emotion for this amount of time. And he would lumber back towards what you assume to be his nest, kind of slamming into one of the grooves and kind of begin to curl up. As his sobbing ceases, and there's a few moments before his snores begin to pick up, Sparkles, who is like keeping very attentive watch and maybe even at this point has alerted Thomas to the change in scenery, you get a slightly more unencumbered view of the area in the back of the cavern, and you can see, again, potentially fresh bodies or unconscious individuals kind of strewn about it. In the opportunity of silence, there is this very faint, almost like if you weren't paying attention, you would not pick it up, but it's just this rising and falling, slow and steady, and it is clearly not the ogre making that noise, but it is some signal of life beyond it.
Gentlemen, there's somebody alive in there. They weren't all dead. I can hear somebody in there.
Anyone have a healer's kit?
Shit, no.
No,
Right.
no.
Never mind. I'm going in.
Yep. I'm assuming we're going in as quietly as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
However you choose to move, you can go ahead and do it.
How long ago was how long have we waited?
About
It was
2
about an
hours.
hour or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. So we can have taken a short rest.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, go ahead. Everyone give me a stealth check real quick. Even though it is sleeping. Just want to get a general ballpark.
18.
Hey. That's with your
17.
armor disadvantage?
I don't have armor disadvantage. I have a chain shirt, not chain mail.
Ah, look at you.
Well,
So 18, 17.
it's a 14.
Okay. Yep, I knew that one was coming. So, taking your opportunity and moving on this new knowledge, you all have more or less free range of the cave as far as you are aware. Moving through it, there is the general warning that Quinn has given about the bodies potentially having hazards attached to them. But yeah, you would be allowed to move at this point.
So-
At the moment that we walk through the cave, I'll just say, don't be alarmed. I'm still here, and thunk, I cast invisibility on myself.
Okay.
As we pass these glowing blue mushrooms, anything familiar about those?
He's quite the connoisseur of mushrooms.
Give me history with advantage.
Oh,
23.
Okay. Sven, you have spent a lengthy period of time with your fungal brethren, and also indulged in quite a variety of them. If there is one thing that you really got a major in university, it is the consumption of such products. where your other companions had failed, you almost fly passing with flying colors. That's totally not how you say that, but we'll roll with it. Just at like a glance, as you're almost kind of striding through the cave with this kind of non-concerned elegance, you spot the mushroom, and instantly you recognize it as Death Bloom. And the reason that you know vaguely of it is it can sometimes be confused with Mirthroot Cap, which is a drug of choice that you are abundantly familiar with. And the various conversations that you've had surrounding this vegetable or this plant kind of come back to you as you were like lounged back in some chair, your mind adrift in some sort of fugue state that you've brought on. Another student of the university, kind of almost obsessively poring over some sort of book that he has stolen from the library, some of the pages kind of torn out. Death Bloom is the byproduct of black burster spiders. It is what they kind of secrete after they have had their fill and then move on to the next stage of life. And it is, if consumed in abundance, can help provide you a resilience towards the parasitical arachnid. It is certainly not something that you can just like pop one in and then have immunity, but if you eat it over a lengthy period of time, you kind of almost identify, as far as they're aware, as one of the spiders, as one of their kin, and so they don't interact with you in any sort of violent manner. So yeah, that would be what you would easily spark to your mind.
Yeah, Sven will immediately clock every location that he walks across those. If for no other reason, then maybe sell them later. But yeah, he will follow Braynoon through.
Yeah, I assume we're kind of moving as a group around.
Yeah.
But
So I guess, what are your guys' plans? Like, where is the end point of all this moving?
I
ogre?
believe murder the thing in its own bed. That's
That does require, hopefully, a plan.
then using message to facilitate between everyone in order to remain as stealthy as possible. Kind of get everyone on the same page of like the last one, yes?
That was my assumption.
I don't think I don't think web will be very beneficial here.
Maybe wait till we stab it and give it some laughter. And then Sven will pull out his trophy from the last one, and you never knows.
Oh.
And continue.
I mean, with the positioning of everything, you guys have a lot of agency right now, so.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Just literally deal 1-2 stab in the sleep.
It's hard to imagine another scenario that would give us more advantage that wouldn't take the rest of this session to set up.
Right. Worked well once. Don't break what works.
I guess who is closing
Are we
distance first?
Are we sure we don't want to talk to him? I mean, convince. I could charm him.
No, you don't talk to ogres.
I've never tried. I was told once I was very friendly. I mean, have you? Okay.
So who is approaching first in the group?
I think that I should.
Yeah, I envision Quinlan followed by me, but
All right. So go ahead and, orientate yourselves in the lineup, I suppose.
Ugh.
So, Quinn, go ahead and give me another perception check.
What kind of check?
Perception.
Perception. Okay.
I'm gonna move Sven there.
What's my bonus? That's gonna be 22.
Okay, give me one moment. So, Quinn, as you are kind of being the leader of this procession, you get to about 30 or 40 feet away from this. Like a nest is probably the best way to determine it. Picture like the most unkempt neckbeard nest that you've ever seen, and then make it bloody and make an ogre. As you glance over it, you see that the various bits of clothing have been consumed yet again by those kind of spider mass or swarms that have dealt with the ogre in a very almost like friendly manner, and they too are kind of nestling themselves into the like the sleeves of shirts or in like the front pockets of various articles of clothing, and are just this giant writhing mass of insect. As you glance off to the right, there are clearly several corpses kind of strewn in the corner, and you're still hearing, even with the mixture of the ogre's snore that is now very apparent, that kind of wheezing noise. And as you pinpoint, kind of tracking the noise over, you see this dwarf, and he is incredibly rough. He is laid on his back. His right arm is crushed to the point where it almost looks like Play-Doh that you stepped on. His face is bloodied and bruised, and his features are gaunt and sunken in. His lips are all dry and chapped, and his eyes are kind of vacantly staring up. He has this thick black beard that's kind of twirled and dreadlocks in a few different places, and he is breathing in the most minimal sense of the word. His chest kind of just slightly rising before that horrible wheeze kind of comes from his lips. And as you try to really isolate him, getting a little bit of like a flame of hope in your heart that he is alive, you see kind of across his pec and his chest, even beneath the layers of clothing that he wears, this kind of rising and falling of some sort of mass inside of him moving around. And every time it shifts, you hear this kind of wet squelch and another wheeze escaping his lips, and you would spot that individual laying down there in the dirt. And that would be the scene.
Do I recognize him as what's his name?
Boma.
Boma, yeah.
Yeah. It is an easy assumption to make, yes.
So, kind of all three stab it at the same time.
I sort of point at Boma, and then looking back at the rest of the group, just shake my head no. And then move up.
As you get closer, kind of similar to the interaction you had with the spiders when you're passing by them near the bridge, the just slightest bit of air that you cause to kind of be displaced is enough to get whatever sensors or sensations that they have alerted, and they start kind of slowly dribbling from the nest forward, again kind of beginning to like reach out but not fully latching onto you, just kind of almost like creating a wall, almost like army ants create like a barrier, and then just kind of stop and hold there for a moment.
Like in the, where's the nest?
So like this whole area is like a big nest, and the spiders kind of come out and more or less not like surround the ogre, but like very much present like a physical barrier.
I slowly like slide my backpack in front of me and dig in there for a flask of oil.
I'll probably make you do a stealth check for that because you are doing it like 5 feet away from the ogre.
Nat 20.
All right. So as you all are watching with incredible tension filling your body, you see Quinn just almost casually shrug his backpack off, set it on the ground without a hint of any noise. The flap comes out, his hand slides in, and just very gently produces the flask. I didn't think I'd make it this far.
Well, there's so many, like one flask will only get 1 square, and there's so many potential targets.
I think Sven would give kind of a light cough. Just, and
Try to glare at Sven.
and just kind of Sven put up his hand, do his little wand to the throat trick, and I could just make them fall asleep.
Sven, as you cough, I guess all of you would be keeping a rather keen sense around you. As you are whispering with Quinn, whoever is aware would see what you assume to be Boma, his head kind of just enough so the bottom of his eyes can kind of peer through slits, and he sees like humanoid shapes in front of him. And you just hear this like
Yeah, I'll go ahead and just cast sleep.
on.
Right about there.
Okay.
So I believe that should give me, maybe right about there, because I'm trying to avoid Quinn.
Is it a 20-foot radius?
It is.
You basically get the
So-
whole side of the cave.
Yeah, I need, well, it won't really matter if he's there, because I'm mainly trying for the bugs. $58. Yeah, so
Question. Does sleep have a vocal component?
yes, it does.
Because Sven is not that much of an idiot, you would be aware that casting this would be loud enough to wake the ogre.
True. Okay, we'll go back to the whisper messages of. Okay, I can maybe kill them all in one go, knock them out all one go. What would you like? Whatever I do will probably wake the thing up, though.
I'm not going to actually whisper or anything. I'm too close. I just point at the flask of oil and then point at the ogre's arm. That is it still covered in spiders?
The left one, no, it's mostly vacant of spiders right now.
Okay.
They kind of seem to be the ones that spread out across the nest.
I think I'm still going to put this particular one on the ogre because I know that they were crawling around on him before, and I don't want him to be throwing them at us or, otherwise benefiting from them being on his person. So, I'm going to start this ball rolling and uncork the flask of oil, and I'm going to oil up this guy while he's asleep.
Okay. I'm assuming you plan on lighting this after the fact.
Well, if I'm assuming that our wizard friends have a spell that produces a light.
It's a bold
Uh,
assumption.
so
Fire specifically?
fire specifically. Well, prestidigitation can light a fire.
Yeah. Yeah, we can prestidigitate torches. And you would have, in terms of fighting with light, I guess that won't be a issue here real soon.
So that's yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
throw the cask and have one of the wizards ignite it.
And then kick this party off.
Okay. I think as Quinn is preparing to throw it, kind of eyeing his target, kind of glancing back at Sven and Thomas, hoping that their academic prowess shines through quite literally here in a few moments, we'll take a 10-minute break. So as Quinn, you deftly fish your oil cask out of your backpack, not making a single sound as the snoring ogre in front of you, his breath causing his stomach to almost like inflate, maybe about like a foot away before it slowly sinks back down. You hold it up, kind of check back with your companions, making sure that they are prepared, and you go to hurl the flask at your target. I think since it's sleeping, I'm gonna go ahead and just give you the hit instead of making you roll.
I wasn't even gonna throw it. I'm
Oh,
just
you're
gonna
just gonna.
cork and just drizzle it over him. Based
Okay,
on my
yeah,
turkey.
that certainly makes perfect sense to me, sir. So that would be your. I guess since you guys do have kind of more or less like a surprise round, and you're third up in the initiative, whoever is igniting it, do you want to ready an action to do so?
Yeah, I'll ready my action to prestidigitate some
Okay.
sparks and light flames onto the oil once it gets on there.
Yeah, I mean everyone goes ahead of Quinn, so basically
Mhm.
whatever you guys want to do this round before Quinn dumps and then Sven ignites, we kind of have to figure out first.
Yeah, my understanding was that him pouring it was what started our initiative. So
Yeah.
and Thomas has nothing to do in this turn. He is quite literally a little shell-shocked right now. Just
Okay. Brandon, are you readying anything? Because this is your guys' like surprise round. This is your advantage for sneaking up on it.
I mean, not really, considering what I was gonna do. There's not really anything to ready.
All right.
Well, I guess yeah, I will. Yes, I ready a spell.
Okay. Good enough. So we will go through the process of Quinn uncorking his little
Well,
flask.
I guess, yeah. That being said, if we're looking at all attacking it at the same time, I'll ready magic missile.
Okay. And I'm assuming the trigger is once the fire is lit.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
So Quinn
trigger
is-
specifically is the ogre wakes up.
Okay. As you start dribbling the flask on his arm, which I think was where you were, placing it, he kind of like, almost if you're spraying shaving cream in a friend's hand at a party, like he kind of like slowly does a little groggy shifting, but not enough to really indicate that he's awake yet, as you keep splattering the slimy liquid over. Sven, you're kind of in the background, like getting ready, like maybe like whisking your wand through the air ever so slightly. As the last like drop of oil goes and you kind of look back and indicate that you have tapped out, Sven, you, I guess, focus in on a small pinpoint, right? Like maybe on his the back of his hand, maybe like right where his wrist meets it. And there's this slow kind of thin trail of smoke that raises off of his skin for just a second before the whole arm quickly ignites in a blaze. And in that exact instant, it is no longer shaving cream, and the ogre eyes snap open, letting loose this tremendous roar as both Braynoon and Thomas would leap into action.
Go ahead, Thomas.
The burning lasts for 2 rounds.
Yep.
And deals 5 damage each round.
Yep, so it's 5 this turn and then 5 for 2 more after that.
And it'll damage the spiders too if they.
And that's
Crawl into its hand.
Yeah.
so. Thomas, he as he's reading from his book and his spell book, you see 3 darts materialize and hang there for just a split second before they shoot one after the other. And that is 17 points of damage.
Jesus. All right. And Braynoon?
I call out in common, since I've been speaking common. I, the player, cannot remember the name it said before, but Braynoon is smarter than I am. But basically, it's
Gorlad.
just, yes. Gorlad, I just say, Gorlad awaits you in the afterlife, and I cast Cause Fear, so I need a DC 13 Wisdom save.
Okay. He fails.
Okay, he is frightened for the next minute. He can make a new save at the end of each of his turns.
Okay.
But as frightened, disadvantage on all attack rolls and ability checks. It also cannot willingly move closer to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yeah, that ends my surprise.
So, okay, okay. So as Quinn, everything all like happens in a quick flash. You empty your flask, kind of taking a step back to make sure you're outside of the roaring fire as Sven sparks it to life. The ogre waking up, and just as soon as his eyes open, he is bombarded. The side of his face, 3 large welts growing across his thick flesh as magic missiles strike him. As he, like each time he tries to raise his head up from the nest, and then Braynoon, calling upon potentially whatever kin or relationship this ogre has been grieving over, striking truly deep and vicious at the soul and heart of this creature, drives it into this mad panic as it is both injured and heartbroken by the onslaught of your activities. And that would be your round. So we're now in the first official one where we are Thomas with Sven on deck.
Order. Okay, so I would have popped as the darts left my hand. I would have materialized, and I'm going to do my best to recreate the last encounter with the ogre, and I cast Tasha's hideous laughter on him.
Okay. What is the DC for that, sir?
That is a 15.
What's the save?
15.
What's the stat?
Oh, wisdom. Sorry. Yeah.
He would fail. So that is, he's prone.
And incapacitated.
All right. Okay. Jesus Christ, 1 second. Okay. So, Thomas, as everything begins to happen and the ogre tries to rise, but then finds his eyesight like latched on to Braynoon before all of a sudden his chest begins to like almost jolt or spasm for this and begins like bellowing out these like giant amused breaths, and he like can't quite get his arms under him or his legs to stand him up. He is stuck almost like a giant baby in his cradle, like trying to shake himself free as you guys just keep dogpiling this individual, and we'll be down to Sven.
So Sven will go ahead and start shaking his scales to open up his blade song. And then go ahead and button. Go ahead and see here. That would be not in range of fire or anything.
No.
Yeah, go ahead and go give that guy a nice good belly poke.
Okay.
Just whip out a scimitar to go in and strike him. I forgot to clear. For a 16 to hit.
That would hit.
Oh, then for a whole 5 slashing damage.
Oh. All right. Anything else besides that, sir?
No, but I think actually that does give what's his face a saving throw on
Or hideous laughter. Yeah.
What was the DC? It was 15? All right.
Yes.
Bandage
does
if
break
triggered
free
by
of that.
damage. Okay.
Okay. So as he is still raucously laughing, kind of filling this cavern with these reverberating cries, is your blade singing or your activation of that, is that more like wind chimes? What's the general noise that produces?
I like to think of it as the scales on the back of his head just kind of lightly vibrate, like crickets or cicadas do.
Okay.
So just kind of a higher pitched whine starts to come out of the back of his head. In some circles it's music, in some circles it's just noise.
Much like the current day, Sven goes charging forward with a questionable sound emanating from his being, and as you reach out and strike the ogre, he finally seems to come to the situation, still frightened severely by the individual that has called upon his friend's name. You slash out, kind of getting a nice nick across his arm that is still currently ablaze, and you see the laughter kind of fade and the fury begin to kind of mix with the fear. And he is going to try and run. Instead of
he can't move towards me.
Yeah. Instead of standing up, he's going to roll, which is crawl, to the cliff and then fall, which would provoke attack of opportunity from both Sven and Quinn.
Do you sneak attack on attacks of opportunity?
I don't think so. Do you?
Yeah, it depends on his positioning, but you can still get sneak attacks.
I'll check real quick.
I think the rule is you can only have one per turn.
One
but I
per
don't know if
turn. It's one
Yeah.
per turn, but it's one per turn
And
for
it's his
Quinn,
turn.
one per turn for him. So you
Mhm.
can get multiple sneak attacks in one round. You because there's more than one turn per
The
round.
general
you understand?
consensus seems that you can, but yeah, there is the one per turn limit.
That's why it's so good and sexy on a swashbuckler rogue.
Thomas,
Alright.
are you taking any sort of attack of opportunity? Oh, not
I can't
Thomas.
with
Sorry,
this-
Sven.
yeah.
My bad.
Even
No.
I did, but it was only for a 12.
That would hit.
Oh, yeah, wow. Screw you, ogre. Enjoy 5 more slashing damage.
Oh, I also meant to tell you I had to. I rolled 1d6s, not 1d4s, so I re-rolled, and that is not a 17. That was an 11. For
Okay, so 6 difference. Okay,
so, yeah. Sorry
Gotcha.
about that.
you're good. All right, Quinn.
I can't remember last time this happened. I got an 18 to hit and 18 damage.
Damn. All right. So as the ogre begins to put the pieces together of what is happening, not even shouting or crying or emoting in any sort of way beyond just getting the fuck out of Dodge, he starts trembling over himself, just like this massive ball of flesh. And Sven, you get another slash on his back, but it's pretty surface level as he just continues to roll. Quinn, as he's about to topple over, dropping the 20 feet down below, how does your blow feel?
So, as he's scrambling to get by, it's really just why complicate things? Stick the rapier out and let him slice himself on the rapier as he's scrambling over the edge.
Okay. Yeah, as his own mask goes trembling by, it sinks deep, and you almost feel it kind of pulling your sword out just in time to withdraw it before he takes it with him. But he goes barreling over the side, landing on his feet with this loud boom, kind of causing the whole room to kind of shake, the dust and debris beneath your feet to kind of dance over your foot. And as he lands, bow in hand, having slept with it almost like a child with a toy, he looks up in just absolute astonishment, and I'm gonna say that he's not moving towards you as he's running diagonally away.
Yep.
Can he re-save from that? Was it an action or at the end of his turn?
And at the end of his turn, he makes another save against fear.
Okay, so he's gonna go ahead and move the last 10 feet and then do another dash. So there, okay. He is just gonna book it. He lands, looks up at all of you, kind of sees that he is instantly outnumbered and has no hope of regaining the high ground, and just shifts his attention away and just starts scrambling over the boxes, kind of crushing one under his foot as his massive weight just goes flinging forward as he's panting and kind of clawing and just booking as fast as he can around the corner, leaving you all kind of where his nest had been left. And that would be his turn. Oh, let me do what was the DC?
13.
He's still frightened.
The
Okay.
fire
Oh,
damage.
and the fire damage. Yes. Okay, which is 5.
It's still on fire.
All right, that brings us down to Braynoon.
Okay, so I am also going to dash. If I move there, can he see me?
No, those are two
Or is that-
separate rooms. Yeah.
Okay. I am going to move. I gotta recount. Hold on.
There is the handy dandy.
So yeah, I get to there.
Okay. And that's your full turn. I imagine so. As you all see his flaming hand kind of whipping as he runs away, the only light source in the room kind of disappearing around the corner, Braynoon kind of quickly shifts his feet, goes darting back the way you all had come, racing back towards the bridge.
Might be the most useful yet useless use of action surge, but I'm going to action surge and dash again.
Okay.
And actually, can I actually jump down? I'll have to make an athletics check, but jump down off the east side of the bridge, kind of to. I can't remember how to ping.
Yeah, I hold the left click on it. But
Not working. There we go. To like there.
yeah, it is about a 15-ish foot drop. So yeah, throw me an acrobatics.
That is a non-natural 20. 20 total.
Okay. Let me move the map again real quick. There we go. Yeah, you would land.
Yeah, I can actually move myself to that spot, but
Oh yeah, sorry, because the barriers.
not a problem.
I'm gonna say yeah, with a 20, you can land without imposing any sort of damage. You
Okay.
you do have to fall and roll and kind of catch yourself as you're
Right, yeah.
descending, but you do kind of land and gain the position.
Cool. And that is the end of my turn.
All right. That brings us down to Quinn.
Can I hop down these crates to make it easier for myself to descend?
You certainly can. It is about 20 feet, and the crates probably only give you maybe like 5 or 10, so it is still kind of a 10-foot roll and then another 10-foot roll. And also the crates aren't like nailed down, so it would be an acrobatics, but you could do it.
That's all right. Yeah, I'll try it.
Okay.
I'm just realizing the irony of we're also cutting off escape avenues again.
You said acrobatics?
Yeah.
15?
I'll probably give you 1d4 damage. That seems reasonable. If I can pick up a 1d4, that's always the worst. Where are they? One moment. All right. Ooh, 3 points of damage, sir. I hope your ankles can sustain it. But you can kind of watch the ogre trailing off, and like stepping up to the ledge, you can look down and see almost kind of the path you need to take as you gracefully kind of slide from the edge onto the crate and then kind of use that momentum to roll off of it onto the floor.
Now, here's the question. How much movement did that take?
I'll say, so you were here, so that,
Yeah.
oh, that'd be like, yeah, I'll just give it the 10 feet. That seems reasonable.
All right. 10. And I will use my cunning action to dash up to him
Okay.
and give him the business. Oh, I don't have advantage. All right, so I rolled a 16. I think that's 21,
That would hit.
and it's 15 damage.
And that's without sneak attack, right?
That's with sneak attack.
You already used it this round.
Not this
When he-
turn.
When he rolled off the cliff?
That was his turn. Now it's my turn.
Oh, it's turn. I thought it was round. It's
Once
turn?
per turn.
Oh, shit. Okay, never mind. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So was it 15 you said?
15 total.
Okay. All right. Quinn, as you go somersaulting over the edge through the corridor, pursuing your target, he is on fire, terrified, barreling forward, kind of like bits of splintered crates stuck in his front, as you are just lashing at his ankles relentlessly, just jamming in the back of his knees, and he is just letting loose this howling, endless amount of pain, and you can tell he is clinging on for dear life.
Love it when a plan comes together.
We do get to the spider's turn, which
You guys were good at this.
Sven, you have your AC at 17? Oh, 20. Oh, because you have mage armor too. Good lord. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, no. I'm squishy.
No
I made sure to.
fucking shot.
God damn it.
Oh my god. I just rolled a natural 20 and a 19. Oh my god. Okay. And now I gotta find more 1d4s. Give me a moment.
As the speakers play, and then you're just somebody that I used to know.
Okay. Oh my god, we're doing crits. Oh no.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. The first attack. How much HP do you have?
17. So let me just double check here real quick. Nat 20
favorite
is a
DM question
crit. I
ever.
can't block that, as I recall. Specifically being a crit.
What would be your?
Well, do you have shield?
Shield? Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be my recourse on that one.
Yeah.
But
What's the? Oh, it adds AC.
Yes.
it has AC.
How much?
5.
Yeah.
So your AC was what? You said it was 20?
20, so it'd bump to
25? We did rule that even
That a
with the
crit still
critical
has to hit.
it still has to beat the AC. So if you get your AC up to 25, I'll allow it.
Okay, yeah. Then as a reaction to the swarming, go ahead and whip up my wand and
Is that just
Cast.
one attack, or is that the whole
Until
round?
the start of his next turn.
Okay. So that gets... Oh, wow. Okay. I wish I could explain how much you just saved your own skin, sir. Yep. Sven, as you are the ignition, quite literally, for this event, and you are quite pleased with yourself as the ogre goes running away, and you're like, well, this was quite easy. How did it so pish-posh? All of your companions leave you. As the swarm of spiders now have a fresh target to latch onto, and they rush towards you with a fury. There's almost like mindless hive-like nature to them as they move in this singular mass. And right as a large swath, probably like 3 or 4 feet tall, comes latching up and then coming down on top of you, you just in time get to like swing your wand out, and you see these like 3 pincers coming out of the front of them, getting sheared off as they are inches away from your flesh, and you repel its entire attack. Another like group of them trying to like swing into your feet and latch on and grab as you just bring the shield down even further, kind of smashing them away. And you so close. Good lord. Brainoon, what is your AC right now, sir?
At the moment, 16.
Okay. Okay, I do hit, not a natural 20.
As a reaction, I cast Shield, and my AC becomes 21.
I just want to hit something, guys. Well, shucks, they
If it makes me
miss.
feel better, that's my last spell slot, so...
All right, Raynoon, as you land your disturbance, raising the spiders, and they come clambering over, and the rest is history. All right. Good show, boys. That would be the spider's turn as you create a barrier for the insects to smash into, and we would pick up back at the top of the round with Thomas.
All right, so Thomas will. Oh shoot! I keep drawing boxes. My bad. He'll step forward there. I believe that's 30 feet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
There is a
Yeah.
big ass, like that's a column that reaches from the floor to the ceiling. I'd say you have line of sight. You're fine.
Okay. And then I cast. I'm just trying to keep this guy controlled. I'm going to cast Tasha's Hideous Laughter again. Wisdom 15.
I just threw my dice off the back of my desk. Oh, he succeeds. Yes. All right.
And then I am going to go there and there.
And didn't spend.
I'm sorry. You said that he succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
I think in no, damn it, I already expired. Actually, never mind. I'm sorry.
All right. So that'd be Thomas's turn, and we are down to Sven.
Yeah. So, real quick, Mr. Bloom. Oh my God, what was his name?
Boma?
Boma. Looks like a living dwarf, not a like cask of bugs inside of his skin, right?
He is living barely, but he has stuff moving around inside of him.
Okay. Well, this might suck for him. Sven will go ahead and whipping his wand in a quick, writhing vines shape. Cast in front of him, Wither and Bloom. So everything that is not me and Boma needs to make a Constitution saving throw of 14.
Okay. They fail and a success.
Okay. The fail takes 8 necrotic damage.
All right.
The success takes 4 necrotic damage.
Okay.
And then Mr. Boma can spend a hit dice, regain some hit points.
Okay.
Plus 4, whatever he rolls.
Okay.
I mean, that's the only healing I can possibly provide to him.
What is the wording of the healing? Like, are you blooming something inside of him? What is the...
A creature of your choice can expend 1 hit die and then gain that amount rolled. Plus
No, I'm just
minus.
trying to kind of figure out what the...
Yeah, so if you
thematics
want
of
the
this is.
visual,
Mhm.
so the vines that he inscribes in the air fall to the ground, and little black tendrils reach up and grab the bugs and leech a little bit of vitality out of them, while a juicy green sprig wraps delicately around Bolt's head, and little thorns stick into him and squirt some vitality into him.
So as you see Boma's body being shifted, kind of just ragdolling as the manipulation is kind of going on, we're going to totally ignore the Jesus imagery as the vine goes around his forehead and then spikes in, and you see the taut skin that's kind of just like suctioned to the lack of nutrients on his face begin to kind of swell and almost return to somewhat normal. It's almost kind of watching like color slowly return to like a black and white film. And he would certainly take that. All right, and that's your turn, sir.
And I will take it then. Neither of them died.
The swarm to your east seem to be thinned, is the best term, as you are just like almost just like fish in a barrel, just squishing as many as you can find. But the one to the south does not seem to have taken significant damage.
Yeah, then that'll be it for Sven.
All right. It is the ogre's turn. And the fright indeed is the end of his turn?
The end of his turn. So at the moment, cannot move willingly closer to me.
He can't see you right now, so he would be able to move forward.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say that he's going to try and turn around and lash out at Quinn, but it's at disadvantage. What is your AC, sir?
It is 14.
Okay. Come on, boy. This is your one shot. You fucked my ass. It's a 2. Okay. So Quinn, as you are just on the heels of this monster, mixed with terror, sadness, grief, anger, shock, surprise, a whole whirlwind of emotion that this being has not yet come to grasp. It swings back with the bow, trying to strike you with the length of it. It goes sailing over your head as you kind of just expertly swivel underneath it, and it would try to flee. And you would get another attack of opportunity, I assume, sir.
I rolled a natural 1.
Yes. I'm assuming that misses.
It would only be like a 6 to hit.
All right. So he would make it probably to there, and then spot you and not be able to move. And then what was the DC for the fear?
13.
Come on, big boy.
Wisdom.
Yes. Yes. Seeing you blocking his path, there's a rise of courage in his soul, and he breaks free of the fear. All right, and that would be his turn. Actually, well, no, end of his turn. Yeah. Okay. So we are now down to Braynoon, sir.
Well, I have these annoying spiders in front of me. So I will use my action and attack them. I'm going to use the Booming Blade cantrip as part of the attack.
All right.
So basically chant the dwarven word for sound and attack roll. That's what I'm looking for. So I still make the attack roll with my Warhammer. That is a 22 to hit.
That would hit.
So they're going to take 12 damage from my Warhammer. And they take no effect from Booming Blade unless they move 5 feet.
Okay. So as the spiders kind of like form this mass against your wall, and they cluster up enough for you to take your Warhammer and just like a bug beneath a boot or a bug beneath a Warhammer, get squished into this gruel of insect innards. And as you like pull the hammer up, you would see this like stretched out strands of sinew kind of being pulled to their limit before they're snapped in the air. And you would see this kind of dancing wave kind of shimmering beneath them, clinging to their feet as they are all kind of like paused for a moment.
Okay. And then I am going to move.
Okay. You would
so they will
provoke,
Yep, they will get an attack of opportunity. I'm just going to move back. Now, I would like to be under the bridge, but if you just want to move me to the other side of the bridge, that's fine.
Well, I'll go ahead and put you here, and we will understand that you are underneath it.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. And then your AC right now?
And, well, so as part of the move, I am taking the Warhammer to one-handed and pulling out my shield, so I will let you determine whether I do that before I move, or...
Taking out a shield is an action, isn't it?
You can stow or retrieve an item as part of a move.
I think a shield specifically says it's an action to don. I think that's in the book.
That could be.
I'm
If
not a
so, then
huge
it
fan of it, but yeah. I think it prevents people from doing exactly what you're doing, of striking
Right.
and then shielding.
I mean, we can do that. That's fine if that's the case.
I'm
Then I
like
won't do that, and I'll
80%
just move
confident,
back.
so yeah, I'll
That
go
could
ahead and
be.
use that. Okay. So what's your AC without your shield then?
16.
16. Okay. Come on, boys. You've been rolling hot.
Math is hard.
Oh, it does hit. Oh, wow. That was close. Okay. Okay. Let me see real quick. Okay. That's 5. And whoop. I hate D4s, dude. I'm never rolling D4s again. Okay. Wow. Okay. That is 11 points of damage. And then
okay.
give me a Constitution saving throw.
Is it against poison?
I'm going to go no.
Okay. I only asked because I have advantage.
Yeah.
So, Constitution saving throw 18.
Okay. As you go to retreat, or I guess, are you retreating like backwards, like backstepping, or are you full turning?
I'm backstepping.
Okay. As you're backstepping, you're seeing, oh, they take the, well, no, because they're not, okay, yeah.
They haven't moved. I moved.
Yeah. You see a couple of the spiders kind of leap onto your boot, and you see some of them even like digging in, like almost like peeling back a layer of the leather, trying to like jam their little bodies through it. And as some of the piercers kind of go through your boot, you feel it digging into your foot, and there's just these like tiny slices, like 8 or 10 like actual nicks being pulled out of you as they continue to try and dive. You just keep like shaking your feet and kind of like smashing one with the other, trying to like get them off as you back up. And that would be their attack opportunity. Anything else, sir?
Nope, that'll end my turn.
All right, and we are down to Quinn, sir.
Don't take to I don't take to villains who run away. Gonna run up to him, give him a thorough stabbing.
There's no way I can get another nat 1 out of this, is there?
Anything's possible.
I mean, 5% chance.
It's an 18
An 18?
to hit,
That would hit.
and the damage is 19.
Quinn, as the official ogre slayer of the group, how do you want to do this, sir?
So he's getting his second wind. He's feeling confident. He's shaken off the fear. He's evaded my strike, and he's headed for, I probably don't know that he's headed for one of my allies, but
I mean, you probably could have heard the booming blade
that's
noise.
that's true.
Yeah.
So
Or me jumping down in the first place.
hey, I'm gonna take a little license here. So running toward him, there's some rocky rubble there next to him, sort of stepping up and vaulting off of the cave wall and taking the rapier, adding the second hand for stability, and again going for the ogre neck, because ogre neck is seems to be a really good place to hit them. So just swinging the rapier in the air, biting into the neck. I don't have the weight to actually get all the way through his spine. So what ends up happening is this sort of like spinning around the light pole and coming to rest on the backside of him. There's a nice spray of blood.
I
out
also
the front.
forgot. He probably should have taken fire damage the last round. I think I
That's
forgot
also
about.
true.
But we'll wrap it up into 2. Quinn, as you leap off the rock, gaining enough height to do this blow, almost like the Singing in the Rain introduction. You go whipping around this fleshy pole of ogre and slicing this thick, almost all-encompassing wound around it, landing down as, again, much like Singing in the Rain, a tremendous shower and spray of blood goes cascading over the immediate area. He releases this horrible cry as he takes his burning hand, the only free hand he has, trying to grip the wound that has been created, only servicing to basically send fire into his throat as he stumbles down to his knees and begins to collapse, kind of holding himself up on his bow before it snaps under the weight, and he goes face planting into the ground as you land rather artfully beside him, and he is no more.
Give it one of those, like, snap the rapier to get excess blood off of it.
All right. That would bring us down to, unless there's anything else you got, sir?
No, I'm looking over the ogre body at Braynoon, trying to assess his condition.
We got Spider Boys. It's my last chance to kill Seth on episode 3. You don't have shield currently, right?
It's a reaction.
Oh, so you could cast it again?
I could.
All right. So what is your AC before then, sir?
Currently 20.
That's a 19. Don't do this to me. That's a 3. Okay. One of them does hit. What?
Then yes, I will cast shield.
Okay. As the battered group in front of you that you would actually manage to thin ever so slightly kind of regroup themselves and attempt another assault on you, you almost, like, knowing as it is coming, flick your wand, and this quick invisible shimmering shield kind of encompasses them almost like a dome as they all kind of scatter around, like bouncing and jumping and leaping off each other as you just watch this little kind of fruitless display at your feet. That would be them. Braynoon, I imagine. Yeah, they are closer. So the spiders that had clung to you will
They
attempt
take
to.
7 damage as they move.
Yep, that is true. It was 20. What would you do initially?
Oh gosh, you're
17?
asking me. No, it was a 9 on the die plus 3, so it was 12. So they have
Okay,
taken a total of 19.
Okay. As they come racing forward, as an initial movement happens, almost like the most morbid visual of popcorn being cooked over a fire, you see their little spider bodies just being bursted like a minefield, as only a handful of them can actually escape this torment and try to attack you. It was, you said 16 was your AC?
Yes. You're also correct. It does take an action to don a shield, which is stupid.
They hit. This is my lucky day.
Okay.
Come on. That's 3 damage. Give me a Constitution saving throw.
It's lower this time. Oh, maybe it's not. It's an 18. I think that's the exact same thing I rolled last time.
In their desperate attempt to do absolutely any damage to this group, they go charging into the holes that had previously been burrowed by their companions in your boot. One of them getting like halfway in before you just scrape him off with the other foot, leaving their assault rather half-hearted. At this point, I think it'd be pretty easy to assume that you're going to get rid of the 3 almost dead combatants left. So is everyone okay with combat coming to a conclusion?
I am fine with that.
All right.
As long as I can say that I would have cast magic missile over Sten's shoulder and hopefully scared him a little bit for fun.
Okay.
Now, given how little damage I actually did to both of those, I'm happy to end combat because I don't know if I could have held on those odds.
So, Quinn, as the ogre goes collapsing beside you, Brandon, as you stomp the last of the pesters beneath you, Sven and Thomas, as you work together to basically blast away the parasites around the lucky as shit individual, or I guess not lucky, you were prepared. The cave settles into a resuming calm, no longer having the snores or the sobs of the ogre, leaving you all with just Rob's microphone background noise as is Boma, who got some sort of almost second-hand attention, is not gasping as terribly as he was before, but is still certainly gasping.
I'm gonna head back to Boma.
Yep.
Scramble up this ledge.
Oh, I'm gonna walk the long way around, but
And I want to stay well away from, really from him or the spider nest.
Okay.
I don't know what we can do for him.
I helped a little bit, but I don't know if there's much more I can do.
How far away is the nearest civilization in terms of time?
4 to 5-ish
Civilization,
days.
Messidore.
Well, we can always try.
Can you speak?
Is the scene kind of begins to settle and potentially somewhat bolstered by Sven's attention. He leaves his injured arm just kind of in the muck that it has basically been turned into, trying to shift himself up on his left arm, but you can see that the clothes that once fit him several days ago are now like limply hanging off of thinner toothpick appendages that he has, and he gets like his head partially up, mainly just kind of like getting his chin closer to his neck, and he meets eyes with you. He's like, hurts. It hurts.
Yeah, can I give him a quick just medicine check?
Go for it.
A look over. Not really my forte. But I did get a nat 20 for 21.
Okay. Sven, as you were very close to being in the same situation as the individual, a bit of your empathy comes out to reinforce your attempt. And as you're looking him over, it's clear that he has suffered actual damage, like wounds and scars from whatever sort of battle or life he has been given the last couple of days. His arm appearing to be very recent, as in like the wound is still bleeding, and it's more likely, I can't speak at all, most likely the source of fresh blood that Sparkles had first hinted at when he entered the room. Besides that, he is incredibly malnourished and dehydrated and full of spiders. So he's in rough shape, but he's not like dying in the next hour or two. Like, there is potential, but it would be quite the task.
Did you have maybe a health potion among your wares?
Kind of like lolls his head over to you, and he tries to like lift his head to look, as you see like a little bit of his flesh poking through the coat that still hangs around him, kind of like surge up. You see this like almost like a cartoon heart coming out of his chest as the spider kind of stands in his chest and sinks back down, and you just like just not able to produce a word.
All right, I'm gonna climb back down and search the crate.
Okay, give
So
me
while he does,
investigation.
I'm sorry. And while he does that, I'll lean down and talk to him and tell him, I spoke with your companion Roland, and he was very concerned about you and hoped that we would find you. We're going to take you back to him, and I know it's hard for you to talk, so I'm going to cast a spell right now. I'm going to be inside your head, and anything that you want to tell him, just think it, okay? You don't have to strain yourself to talk. And anything you think we should know, just let us know, okay?
He would nod.
And I will cast Detect Thoughts.
Quinn, what was your roll?
12.
Okay. doing a very quick and rudimentary searching of the crates, probably like 80 or 90% of them are the Deepwood cider that you had been sent to retrieve. It's also clear that some amount of the goods have either been damaged or used or basically taken out of their boxes or crates. There are a few chests or trunks that have clothing and like knickknacks and kind of personal effects in them. Nothing that would really, I guess, catch your attention as far as useful in the current moment. You know, there are things like silver spoons or utensils that are clearly like regarded in some sort of importance, and like maybe like a cup that was someone's cup specifically, but that's about it.
What kind of containers are the cider in?
They are, I know there's a term for it, but those like fat bottom bottles that have the twine around them. What are they called? They're called something.
Sounds like a wine bottle, like an old.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Like a jug.
yeah, like those big kind of pear-shaped
Yeah.
bottoms with a twine wrapping and then a thin neck.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I just heard that word the other day of all words.
Someone
I-
will know it.
Yeah.
I don't think I know it. I don't think that I've been told about it.
Oh, well, I'll
Shit.
look it up later.
No,
Saying
no.
jute, but jute
for
is a
this.
type of twine, not a type of bottle.
Okay. Sorry, continue, Woken.
So I just bring I bring one of those bottles back around with me and just sort of hold it up, kind of shrug and shake my head. Just cider and sundries.
So,
Mhm.
Only there was
Thomas-
something that that would drive the spiders away.
Funny you say that. You know, the mushrooms all over the place. Those can work, though usually it takes much more time.
And there are
Um,
you two
can we?
who got an A in potions class.
Would I, after having conversed with Sven, would I have had a further understanding of what they did?
I mean, Sven's kind of offering up that information now, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
would it be possible to feed the mushrooms to the man to help?
Give me survival with advantage.
Okay. Holy shit! Double natural 20.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay.
I expected the other side.
Yeah, me too. Thomas, as you are like kind of nestling down or getting on your knees to have this interaction with Boma, Sven kind of piques your interest, and your intellect begins to just churn at a rapid pace. You are like physically flipping through books in your mind as you are trying to come up with a solution or figure out some sort of answer to this problem. And as he mentions the mushrooms, you start thinking back to the various like optional alchemist classes that you took or the seminars that you sat in on. And there is, while the death bloom mushrooms can't one-to-one potentially solve this problem, you could potentially make them into some sort of paste or condensed palette, or maybe even brew them or soak them or manipulate them in some way to make them a more potent product to then send into Boma.
I will. Okay, so does that come before or after I talk to them?
Probably during. So you can either pause that and come back to it, or do it after this.
I just let him know with that flash of inspiration that I need him to. Well, actually, I can RP that. But look, I know that you may have felt like it was all over, but believe it or not, we have a cure for your condition. We're going to get rid of the spiders, but we're going to need all the help that you can give us, because half of the battle is always mental, okay? If you want to live, it's going to help a lot more than if you think you're going to die. So just don't give up.
as you're speaking and giving him the first bit of hope that he has had in days, the only company he had during this time is a brutish ogre that you assume probably delivered the blow that he is suffering from currently. There is a connection with your eyes as he still can't quite fully manipulate his face. His emotions kind of stiff. You see like the watery beginnings of tears begin to work out, but he is so incredibly dehydrated that even that comes out weak, like a thin tear that gets like half an inch from his eye before it just soaks back into his flesh. And you see him just like more or less silently nod.
Going to carefully, like, I still am waiting for these damn things to come flying out of him, so my movements are very measured.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna try to administer my water skin
Okay.
to him.
You would happily accept.
Just I'm gonna hold it and just the tiny just sips, just really just just enough to wet his palate. Who knows what how the spiders might even react if there's too much like swallowing and changing of
Mhm.
that state going on.
So what are the rest of you doing?
Why are you giving him so much hope? We don't have anything with us.
I would snap my neck around at Sven and just at the the normally placid and nervous features of Thomas at that moment would have sharpened, and I would have I whispered, but hissed and whispered so that hopefully he didn't hear it, and just tell him, sometimes hope is all we have. Shut your mouth. And then
Then
go. Yeah.
What do you need? What can I do?
Sven's
Stop
gonna
watching the game.
Sven's gonna go and start ripping out mushrooms like he had intended to. Not specifically for what Thomas was saying, because I don't think you actually mentioned that we can still use them, but he'll start ripping some out of the wall and the ground. You said this pit is...
Mm-hmm. You probably have to kind of like slide down and kind of lower yourself a bit, but it is abundant with the death bloom.
Yeah.
Also, for the time being, I'm gonna cast a floating disc underneath. Can we materialize it underneath him so that he lifts up, or
Does it specify that it has to be in a unencumbered space?
it says the spell creates a circular horizontal plane of force, 3 feet in diameter, 1 feet thick, floats 3 feet above the ground and unoccupied. No, so I guess it probably appears 3 feet above. Okay,
Yeah.
then I'll hold off till we're ready to move him.
Mm-hmm. So Thomas, are you leading the charge on the death bloom thing?
Yes, but first, in that conversation with him, did he relay anything that he wanted to get across to us?
Well, you
'Cause,
put the
I'm-
mind
I'm-
thing on pause, right? You said, hold
Oh.
on a moment. We have hope.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So, what do I recollect that I need to do to create any sort of potion or?
So the main thing you're gonna run into as far as like thinking through the problems is you don't have any alchemist supplies, like the various like vials and flasks and like kind of isolated fires that you might need to produce some sort of potion or elixir or antidote. That's going to be the biggest hurdle to overcome. As far as producing something that is just the death bloom's essence kind of condensed, it's not the hardest thing in the world.
What are the chances that I could take some of the empty glass jugs that the ogres had drank from, because we know they had drank at least a few,
Mhm.
prestidigitate them completely clean, and use them as sterile containers to, like a kind of improvised beaker set.
I think that will certainly work. Yeah, if you take the time to collect some and start doing that process.
Okay, I'm gonna tell Sven to collect as many as the mushrooms as you can. One of you two, I need water, and meet me out in front because I'm not working in here anymore. And I run back out to the front to create a fire and start. And I'll have as part of this, I'll have my unseen servant hold the beakers over the fire at the level I need it,
Okay.
so that that I don't have a stand, but that'll work. And I'm gonna get going on potions 101.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll go about collecting any containers I can find.
So as the entire fury of motion moves outside, again, it's now probably far past midnight. It's maybe like 2 or 3 in the morning as everything has been taking place. You settle down and make this rudimentary and certainly not up to code alchemist shop or workshop or workbench in front of this cave. And as Sven and Braynoon are shuffling out containers in Deathbloom, and Quinn is working on procuring water and kind of being there for whatever you need, you're furiously, crushing them beneath whatever implements you have, like smashing them between your palms, and then trying to basically, boiling them up, making them into some sort of paste, and then burning away whatever like toxins that might be dangerous in this like volume. And probably about 30 minutes of like diligent hard work as everyone's frantically moving around and doing their task. You eventually, it's still boiling, it's still hot to the touch, but you filled like maybe like a 2 or 3 inches of one of the empty cider bottles with this. It is maybe the thickest cough syrup you've ever seen in your life, but it is more or less the product that you need. It's still kind of slowly bubbling and then popping as you are carrying it, but you now have what you hope is the solution.
Okay. And have we moved him out, or is he still in the cave?
Not. Yeah, he'd still be in there.
All right. So yeah, I'll take that back to him. Is he still conscious?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we've made the potion. It's going to cure you. You're going to be okay. And it might take a few days for you to feel better. So even if you don't feel good after drinking it, that's okay. It's normal, okay? But don't spit any of it out, okay? It's important that you drink it all, okay?
Wait.
And what?
I sort of gestured to him to step aside with me quickly.
One moment. Bobomo.
What? So what? We expect this to make the spiders want to leave, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it'll make them leave. I don't know if it'll make them just die. I honestly don't know if it'll do anything, but
I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, it's all I know how to do. But
just hear me out.
Yeah,
I'm not a doctor, but I would think that if it makes them leave, they need somewhere to leave through, so that they don't just come chewing their way out of wherever they are.
I understand, but if we don't do anything, I think he's just gonna die.
I'm not saying not to do anything. I'm asking for ideas. Do we need to an incision?
From across the way, you would hear, we used to do bloodletting just to get high. We need assistance.
I'm also assuming that most of his arm is just an open wound at this point.
They'll take the path of least resistance. So, if there's already a cut on him, they might just lead through that. I don't want to cause him any further trauma, but
sort of hold it up say, clean this just in case.
But yes, stand ready if they start to try to chew out of, and I'll press to digitate his blade clean. If it looks like they're going to make exit, maybe let them out so they leave. I don't know.
All right, let's get this over with.
Okay. I'm gonna come back with the potion and
Mhm. Thomas, go ahead and give me
Let me-
medicine with advantage.
it's a new day, right?
Is it dawn or new day?
A new day.
Yes.
Then Thomas has never been more certain of almost anything in his life. He can see all his years of diligent study, even the things that he never thought he was going to use, all kind of come coalescing into just this feeling of certainness over what he's done with his medicine check, and he will use a portent of a natural 20.
All right. What is that with your bonus?
That's a 22.
Okay. So, Quinn, as you sit at the ready, watching over this scene with a absolute focus, and Thomas, you prep yourself, but feel some sort of like, not like you're a puppet on a string, but you are attached to some fate kind of beyond your comprehension. You lean down over this individual, his eyes kind of flicking back and forth between the two of you as he prepares for whatever is about to come. You start to slowly tip the bottle with the concoction. Again, the contents taking a few like lazy rolls over itself as its thick liquid begins to like inch closer and closer to the nozzle before it begins to slowly drip out. The first drop kind of hits his tongue, and you can see the interior of his mouth is like rough leather. There's just no moisture or spit in it as it hits his tongue and starts slowly trailing back towards his throat. And he kind of just like does this motion weakly to try and start working it deeper and down. You're probably maybe 5 or 10 seconds into this very intense situation before you see the first like shudder of his body, and it's clear that this is not him moving his figure, it is something else, as his whole back kind of suddenly arcs and this big cry and this like kind of spitting out some of the elixir as his head goes rolling back. The clothes that are still kind of loosely attached kind of fall away, exposing the majority of his torso, and you see these ribs that are sucked. The skin is just like vacuumed over them. Spiders begin to crawl over them, forcing their way between the tight space. You see some kind of darting out towards the arm. You see some crawling up his neck and getting into his cheek, and he begins to scream, just like letting loose any sort of energy that he has, as there is this horrible wrenching tearing noise as you see one dart out from the broken arm, kind of separating a little bit of the flesh still clinging there, and it starts scurrying away. You see some just begin to spew out from beneath him, as you can assume where they have made their exit. And as there is elixir still kind of trailing into his mouth, the last bits of the content going as his eyes are just like dancing around in their sockets, you see 3 or 4 of the spiders crawling their way up his throat and kind of like latching their way over the elixir and then out his mouth, some of them kind of slicing his lips a little bit on the way as they pour to the side. And it would be harrowing to watch, but after about 3 very, very violent seconds, his body would cease moving, collapse back down to the floor, the movement inside of him fading, and he would be unconscious, but he would be breathing, but damaged.
Is he alive?
Definitely
Quinn.
gonna like skewer the spiders as they come out.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so I put my ear down on his chest, and I assume I hear the heartbeat.
You hear the faintest movement of air and the tiniest heartbeat beneath you.
All right, so are we all here? I'm assuming.
I
Yeah.
would assume so.
Brainun, Quinlan, pick him up gently, please. And so after they pick him up, I'll cast the disc under him. And now, can we please leave this place?
Bit of a note that we do need to still get the product.
Right. I'll grab one as I go. And I'll pick one of the bottles up, and the disc will follow me as I make my exit out of the cave.
Yeah, part of me thinks that while Thomas was putting together his concoction, Brainun would have been moving any intact crates at least to the entrance of the cave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you can certainly move Boma out with the disc. Various amounts of the crates can kind of be moved. It's probably still a little bit more effort to get them all out and then unloaded.
Mhm.
Maybe bringing like a quarter of the way done by himself. And we're now probably scratching like 3 or 4 in the morning. It's almost, well, it is the next day, but it's almost the next day, and you guys have not rested except for the previous night. So all of you are very much feeling the weariness of everything that has happened. But you do get Boma out into fresh air for the first time in potentially a week or more. So that is a situation you all find yourself in.
On one of the last trips of bringing crates up to the entrance, can I poke around in the body pile? It was up there. We didn't look at it.
Mm-hmm. Are you
Figured
guys
maybe
going through the process of taking all the crates out right now?
I would be, yeah. Like,
Okay. So
my
you
assumption
guys
is
are,
before we want to take a long rest, we probably
Mhm.
want to be away from here at least.
So as
I
all
would
of you,
I would advocate for loading up in the cart and resting as best as we can, 2 at a time in the cart while just walking, and sleeping in the cart and just trying not to stop if possible. Kind of a forced march type of thing back.
so you all would take probably all the way to dawn itself to get all the crates out and kind of organized and on the cart and more or less ready to go. Again, still not having rested for quite some time. Sven, are you investigating before you all depart?
yes.
Okay. It's another
Very
10.
delightful. 10.
Okay. You said 10?
Yeah.
Okay. It is not the most delightful activity to be picking through these remains. They are kind of wrenched and destroyed and torn. Some of them were clearly used for nesting for these insects that you are very familiar with at this point. Going through their persons, you would find 4 silver pieces.
Anything identifying?
Unless you take their teeth, not
No?
a whole
Okay.
lot. Got a 10.
In case any of them had a memento or something.
Picking at one of the ones that has probably been dead the longest, its body the most compromised, and it certainly has gone through the process of some spiders bursting out of its body. As you're turning to leave, just kind of like, oh, that's about it. Silver pieces, pish posh. You look over, and there's this like kind of gleam, this glint of metal that you see like on the inside of its neck, which catches your attention because obviously there should not be anything metal inside someone's throat. And as you turn back around and do a little, you would see that they had swallowed some sort of ring that looks like it almost kind of lodged itself like horizontally across their throat and gotten stuck there. And there would be a ring there if you wanted to retrieve it.
I must have it. And go ahead and pull that out.
Okay. It's not incredibly fancy, but it certainly is a little bit more interesting than most casual jewelry. It has this, it almost looks like a stained glass mosaic, but it's clearly metal, and it's this like reddish metal that makes up a rose symbol. And then there are these silver strands that reach out from behind it, and then they look almost like roots or vines of a plant that then wrap around to the other side of the ring and kind of entwine themselves to close off the loop.
Sven will kind of pocket that for rumination later, and as he catches back up with the others, well, our initial take, if anyone wants a silver. Kind of thumb those out to the other three.
So, all of you would get
Yes,
a silver piece.
Make sure that you report that to Master
No,
Sutri,
Thomas.
because
Thomas.
we have to report everything that we find to divide. Yes.
Would you like to give him some spiders? No, we don't have to give him everything.
No, it's very clearly stated that that 50% of our proceeds should go to the guild. Anyway.
Carry on to
So
down with the cart.
what is the plan? You said trying to go at pace.
I mean, I would advocate for as forced of a march as we can make it back home, and just to get him to qualified medical assistance as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to at least get to the grasslands before we take any.
Yeah, get out of the mountains.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how long can you go before you start getting levels of exhaustion for not sleeping.
It's weird because I'm not sure it's actually rules as written. Like, I don't think there's a true rule for not taking a long rest.
Can you get a long rest in 8 hours of being in a cart trying to sleep?
Well, whoever's driving is now going to be going on more than 24 hours without any sleep.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at. We'll go with there are like cold weather survival rules where any hour past you find something.
Yes. So I just found whenever you end a 24-hour period without finishing a long rest, you must succeed on a DC 10 Constitution saving throw or suffer 1 level of exhaustion. And then it doesn't say how it increases, but it's harder to fight off exhaustion if you stay awake for multiple days.
I'll go ahead and go with that and just ask for checks when it seems appropriate. So whoever is not sleeping, and the cart, again, at this point, you also have to realize is mostly full, laden with both the crate and I'm assuming Boma. So you all would kind of just be like draped over these stacked crates trying to sleep, but I'm sure you could find it. So who are the two driving the cart first?
Sven will volunteer.
Yeah. You two need to rest in case we have to defend ourselves on the road.
Okay.
I argue with that.
Won't argue.
So Thomas and
I only have
Sven,
to roll a 5 or higher to meet a DC 10. So.
give me a Constitution saving throw.
14.
That's a 11.
Okay. So as you both let your companions rest, being the sturdier of the two by far, you settle into driving the cart and get get the group off of the mountainside more or less, finally getting mostly out of the rugged terrain that is like difficult to get the horse through. To get a long rest, they would have to sleep for at least 6 hours. So I'm probably going to have you do the check again if your goal is to get to the actual grassland before you stop. So let's go ahead and do another round of Constitution saves.
That is a 10. Did that succeed or fail?
Same.
Is it meet or exceed, or is it exceed? It's a DC 10, so...
DC 10, however, it does say that it becomes harder if you stay awake for multiple days, but we aren't technically at multiple days yet.
I'm going to go with fail, because it's a little bit of flavor. So both of you gain a level of exhaustion, which is disadvantage on all ability checks. But as you are finally beginning to wheel the cart into that wild grassland that you'd crossed the previous day, being able to see farther out as the sun is now fully up in the sky, probably being about, what is it now, like 8 or 9 in the morning at this point. Thomas and Sven, you would kind of both be leaned up against each other, like one head kind of drooping down, about to sleep, as the other one shakes him awake, and then it kind of switches, and the other one has to wake up the other, and you are just barely hanging on as you are kind of like half-heartedly whipping the horse, who is just like, and you are just this...
When does the horse start failing?
I mean, he got a good rest while you guys were messing.
Yeah,
this up,
the
so.
horse got left alone. It had its
Yeah.
chance.
But yeah, I guess Braynoon and Quinn, you would wake up somewhere around this time with your two wizarding companions about at their wits' end.
Just quietly, like, sit up and climb to the front and just sort of pat each of them and say, take a nap.
Right. We're currently on the road heading back to Mizadora. It's that way. And the horse is doing quite well, and I'm pretty sure my favorite color of wine is orange.
I've got it.
I crawl back, and I'll probably be... This is as tired as Thomas has ever been in his life, and he will probably immediately pass out.
Join Quinlan up at the front of the cart.
So are your guys' plans to, as the new drivers, just kind of proceed through the rest of the day?
Probably. I mean, that's the most effective method if we just stagger long rests and keep moving.
Are you trying to push the horse, or are you trying to keep it steady?
I don't know what they were doing. I wouldn't be pushing the horse, because if the horse goes down, we're stuck. So
Steady wins the race.
Okay. So Quinn and Braynoon, as you are left as the guides, thankfully finding your way from Zavel Cavern to the road is a lot easier because you are looking down a slope and spotting the kind of winding road through the landscape. You just keep trudging ever closer to the roadway, praying that once you get on there, it's much smoother sailing, as you have to spend most of the day kind of going around divots and avoiding hills and the large boulders in the way, or trees that have these snaggling roots that love to capture the wheels. It's getting near, again, maybe like 7 or 8 in the afternoon or evening. The sun is now stretched over the entire sky. Boma, who is, I'm assuming or hoping you guys took some time to somewhat cushion or lay in the cart, would somewhat wake up for a few minutes, kind of like glancing around, clearly still confused and dazed and trying to come to, but he wakes up before probably finding his own way to sleep. So, all right. Is this the plan? Is keep switching off drivers and just keep going?
Well, yeah, and then obviously keeping our eyes open for anybody on the road. You know, whenever Thomas would be awake, if we were passing anybody on the road, I'd ask them if they were a healer, if they knew of any nearby.
Okay. You don't, at least being this late at night, most people kind of either finding a way off the road or not traveling during this time. You don't pass anyone on your way to the road, clearly. But Quinn and Braynoon having spotted it earlier, as the sunlight begins to fade, you would still be able to kind of recognize those glints kind of off in the distance, those reminders of the nomadic elves kind of keeping tabs on you, and none of them again cause you any sort of alarm or, make you feel wary, but just acknowledging that they are there. I'll go ahead and say that by the end of this night, so the night of the 24th going into the 25th, you could hit the road if you guys are continually progressing. So that would put you basically there. And
I think
then
at some point we do have to rest the horse, but
Yeah.
So hitting the morning of the 25th, is it still the plan to keep going or stop for a rest?
How you say we see the glints of the elves? Is there any way to try to signal them that we know would be effective?
Yeah, I mean,
I
they
mean,
are
are they-
watching you, so they're
Yeah, I guess-
probably away.
Is there like a recognized symbol for distress, like, or
You could try it.
during I would try to get their attention, in the if it were in a little bit towards lower light, I would try to I would cast light on an object in my hand, and I would uncup it and cup it, not really Morse code, but trying to flash them, doing anything I could to try to attract their attention, and assuming they had anybody that could actually see us clearly, hoping to let them know that we wanted to talk to them.
Okay. So as the morning is encroaching, you all have had your long rest at this point. Again, remove your levels of exhaustion. I'm imagining everybody's up now because it's not really necessary for anyone to be sleeping currently. Okay. As you near the road, and Thomas, you are using this signal to try and hopefully get their attention, even though it's clear they are keeping an eye on you. After maybe like 5 or 10 minutes after your attempt, kind of beginning to think like, they must not care, or they don't get the message, or, maybe they're too wary to even approach. The wagon kind of goes over that lip that Sven had led you all off of several days prior, getting back up onto the road proper. The horse kind of almost seeming like relieved in its movements as it now can just place a foot in front of the other without concern. There is the subtlest like shifting of wind. Like if you were out on sea, which Sven and Thomas is somewhat recent for you all, and Braynoon they presence or a essence that you are very familiar with. There is this gust of wind that just kind of rolls over the scene, and it like brushes your hair and kind of causes the reeds to kind of sway ever so slightly more before you see a single rider kind of approaching out of the darkness, about 60 or 70 feet when your perception starts picking up. He strides into the area that you all can perceive, and he is clearly Quinn. You would be instantly able to recognize this individual, or this type of individual, as the rest of you are getting this imagery for the first time. It is clearly an elven man, his pointed ears almost kind of exaggerating, like jutting out and up, almost like bat wings out of the side of his face. His features are graceful but sharp, where the elven or the city elves that you interacted with mostly kind of have this slenderness to them, this shapely kind of almost like silken essence to their beings. This looks like a stone-cut statue. His eyes are stoic and determined. His features of his face are harsh and held in place. He has this singular black knotted braid that is clearly pulled tight across his skin that extends maybe 6 or 7 feet down past him, and he is adorned in a mixture of metal and leather and fur. There are etchings and carvings kind of across the various different surfaces. He has a really large pauldron that is almost not ornamental, but certainly over decorated and kind of catches your eye. But he shifts into view moving with the horse in a very natural way. You almost could mistake him for a centaur for a moment because the two figures don't seem to be separated. And he would saunter in, and he already has a saber kind of drawn in his hand, but it's clearly in a position of not trying to threaten, but show some sort of preparation. Quinn, you would also be relatively familiar that if you are interacting with a single nomadic elf, it is very easy to assume that whatever he is traveling with is already around you. This is not something that they would engage in willingly, but he would stride up, kind of look over you all with this very just kind of dry glance, and then match his eyes with Thomas. You were signaling us?
And I would, in my best Elvish from school. This is not something I practice many times in any sort of, but I would give him a greeting and then again shift in Elvish, and then I'd shift back to Common. So we're traveling in all haste to Mizadori, and one of our companions is very, very injured, and we don't have any healers among us, and we were wondering if we could beg your assistance.
He'd probably close like maybe 10 or 15 feet more, kind of craning from his position on his horse, kind of look in the cart, and he would spy Boma and he would give him a quick once over. Spotting his arm is kind of the main bit of focus, and then back to Thomas. Are you asking for assistance?
He'll die if we don't get him help, and honestly, none of us are sure how much longer he's got left to live without help, and we're still some time away from Mesidori.
Quinn, how are you carrying yourself in the current moment?
I am shrinking. Just I'm not making eye contact. I'm just sort of tending or pretending to tend to Boma. I just kind of
So this is
really,
a little
you
it's a little bit of a stretch, but I think it fits. Can you give me a deception check?
16.
Okay. As he's like looking over the wagon, there's clearly, cogs turning, but his expression still does not change. As there's a few moments of silence as the contemplation continues. He would glance over Quinn, and there'd be kind of like a quick double take, but he almost disregards it as soon as he returns his attention back to you. Looking at Thomas eventually, he just narrows his eyes and kind of gives this like little nod, and then Zalil, calling out into the darkness, and you would see another elf kind of approaching again on horseback, and this is a somewhat youthful looking female elf, though clearly with an elf this could be a rather aged individual. She is still holds that kind of intense sharp feature, but in a much more feminine way. It's this strange, almost kind of striking beauty that is not inherent with the elves that you were familiar with. And she would again stride forward with her horse, and she rides, it's not quite a draft horse, but it's close. It's this tall, broad, strong beast, and there is what almost looks like cages and supports and braces kind of all around it, holding various equipment, small caged animals. It has like long beams kind of strapped to its side, and the first elf would kind of just gesture slowly as she begins sauntering the horse kind of up beside the cart, and she would point down at Boma and then kind of look at you all and load him.
Yes, certainly. And I'll go back to start trying to help lift
So as it's
Boma
a
up.
somewhat combined effort to get him up onto the horse behind her, she looks back and then looks at you and lash him down.
Does an unseen servant have to be in contact with me?
Imagine.
It
I
needs
think
to
it
stay
has to-
within 60 feet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. We'll just slash him.
Okay. Boma, who like kind of wakes up during this process, like lifts his head as you guys are like roping him to the horse. But she would make sure it's like secure. Look down at her
And
horse, kind
yeah. And as we're lashing him, and I see that he's awake, I'll tell him. I told you it would fix you, and we found the elves, and you're gonna get the finest of elven healing, and you'll be returned to Roland here soon.
of Koval, but you know, same thing. You would see
Kobold? I thought it was
Roland
Roland.
was the rancher that you
The
guys
rancher.
interacted with.
Oh.
Koval is his. Yeah,
The
yeah,
guy
you're
that
good.
saved
I got you.
Koval.
I'll be
Um,
reunited with Kobold.
You see Boma's like lips kind of work up in the weakest smile, and just as you see like a hint of a white tooth, you see a trail of blood just trickle from his lip and down to his chin. But he seems relieved.
Kobold did say that you had an amazing smile. He was not wrong.
The mounted elven rider would then like kind of gesture down and touch her horse, kind of giving it a little bit of praise before she turns the beast around and goes blitzing off into the night. Is just she's there and then she is gone, and you hear the quickening thundering of hooves disappearing off into the darkness. The initial elf that kind of came and approached you all gives you all one more look, and
Okay, we'll follow you then.
I have no interest in being followed. He just turns around and
Wait, how will we get him back?
she's
Don't-
bringing
don't
him to
worry.
your walls.
Oh, I thought she was taking him to one of your healers. That's amazing. Okay, thank you.
And then he would slowly
Wait.
make his way back into the darkness.
What was his name?
Didn't get it.
What was your name?
I didn't get it, or he didn't give it.
Both.
What did he say her name was?
Zalil?
Okay.
No. But you would, as far as you're aware, be left alone.
Without a need for haste removed, perhaps we should make camp tonight and get a real night's rest.
That would be
Indeed.
most welcome.
I can't remember what time of day you said it was, but I know you mentioned it was evening. So
I have to.
It's like more. No, it's night now. Yeah. You just reached the road at night. So setting up camp and doing watches, and then probably picking up traveling in around noonish.
Yeah, nice late start to the day.
So yeah, I guess at this point it is somewhat standard traveling pace back to Macedonia.
I think Sved would take inventory, comparing what we were told about and what we actually were able to acquire.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think it was 400 pounds is what you're supposed to get, or close to.
Okay.
I don't think I put that down precisely.
yeah,
but,
I don't recall.
The long story short is it would be mostly there, certainly within the ballpark of understanding that it was ambushed and then taken. So it's enough of an amount to be acceptable.
Within the expectation of loss.
Yeah. But are there any moments, questions, interests, activities during the next kind of little stint of traveling back?
Yeah, we're gonna do watches or.
Yeah, I mean, I have your watch rotation. I imagine every night we would go through that. So
All right.
Nothing else. That been a rough few days.
So traveling so this is the morning of the 25th. We'll say the morning of the 27th.
26th, wasn't it?
Well, that was the night of the 25th that you guys hit the road. So
Right.
yeah, maybe the
Okay, so
26.
we're jump. Okay, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm gonna move you guys to about there-ish, close enough. Give me one moment. Yep. Okay. As you are finally able to, in one of your mornings of travel, actually pick out Messidore off in the distance, giving you guys about a day or so away, recovered from all of your adventures and kind of riding the high of returning with, as far as you're aware, complete victory, not having any sort of harsh negative consequence that you're aware of so far. It's getting closer to maybe 8 or 9. You guys have been on the road for about an hour or so this day, settled into that routine pretty sternly. Before there are 3 riders approaching your direction, and you've passed a few people at this point, so there's no big, hubbub about being approached. But they have these prominent emblems or identifiers right over their heart. It is this heart-shaped red blade that kind of comes back down and crosses over itself, and it is pinned prominently on their chest. It's maybe about 6 or 7 inches tall, so it's pretty easy to spot once they get close. And as they are kind of just about to, wave you by or just kind of pass without incident, one of them does kind of scan you all over, and you see his attention kind of stop on one of your bronze emblems that you wear. And you see him look over the cart, and then he looks back at the other 2 and kind of does a little silent conversation before they clearly start approaching you directly.
I cast Mage Armor.
What was their outfit?
They're all wearing various degrees of armor. It's clear that these are combatants of some sort, but they do have that. They all share that emblem, no matter what their outfit looks like.
Right, that heart shape with crossing blades.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And our rival guild, as it were, was...
Give me a history check.
that down. 17.
Okay. Sven, in your absent-minded attention, at some point during your stay in the Emberborg Guild or talking to Ayla or listening to Camus rattle off something, you were made aware that the biggest kind of rival guild in the town or the city with you is called the Bloody Hearts. And it's not the most difficult leap to make. Bloody Hearts, bloody swords. Yeah.
Oh, delightful. Because we have rivals. And joining Thomas, we'll go ahead and do a quick mage armor.
Quinn and Brayden, you doing anything specifically?
Just keeping it very cool.
Yeah, I
Nice.
imagine through most of the travel, Brayden has walked along the side of the cart just to reduce that amount of weight from what the horse has to move. And but yeah, not carrying any weapons, wearing his armor, but
So as the leader of this pack of 3 kind of grows closer, you can spy that he is a rather stout dwarf. He's on a much kind of shorter mount, almost kind of a mule, but still serves the purpose. He's dressed in pretty heavy, kind of significant armor. It's clear that this is someone with a little bit of prestige or wealth to kind of throw around. And he has not like a grin on his face, but a very pleasant kind of half smile. And there's no sort of aggression in his posture as he strolls up within maybe about 15 or 20 feet of the cart, kind of looks you all over like, "Oh, I think you have something that I want."
and how's it feel to want?
"Oh, it's quite the sting. But I think that we can come to an agreement."
I'm not quite so sure about that.
He kind of looks back at one of the men flanking him, and the guy lifts up a sack that was kind of like put up and over his saddlebag, and you all hear the distinct and heavy sound of like clinking as he hands it over to the first guy. He kind of lifts it up and gives it a little shake, clearly indicating that it's full of probably coins as far as you can guess. It's like, I have no need for the reward, but I have 600 gold pieces here right now saying that cart's mine.
And the
I
other
must have a
seaman,
speech
we have
impediment.
need of the coin.
Sorry.
I had said that you seem to be making the assumption that we have need of the coin.
Well, I imagine you are. You're from the Ember Boar, you little scouts.
Then you should know that we need the the the
No, Thomas.
we should that we need the
Thomas.
we need to complete this contract more than we need more coin. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to twist your arm, but I think that your home could use a little fuel or financial injection.
Yes, well, while we appreciate the offer, obligations and the word and bond of our guild is a little more important than gold. Gold is easy. Reputation, well, that's eternal.
Kind of lifts an eyebrow up, looks back at the other two, the kind of little shrug, and then slaps another sack that's kind of hanging from his belt. It's like, 800, as high as I'll go.
Still not even reaching the cost of the cart. I know those must be big numbers for you folks, but 800 gold, no.
We'll return the cart.
We don't have time for this. The Carquins are waiting for this. Anybody that delays their business is going to have some explaining to do in Messidore. So it doesn't matter how much you offer us. I don't want to have to answer for any shenanigans.
All right. And he just kind of like puts his hands down, kind of sets the bag back, and go about your day.
Oh. What's your name?
I'm Tanner.
It was a pleasure to meet you, Tanner. I'm Thomas, and these are.
Thomas, don't make friends with the rival guild.
We're all working to rid the world of evil, and they just more. It's another company. We don't have to be unfriendly with each other.
That's
Oh
the
my
Some
spirit.
working harder than others.
Well, I hope you all last longer than the last one.
Me too.
Well, enjoy your reward. Spend it in good
Sure, we
health.
will.
And they would make no movement to change their direction as I kind of watch you lead the cart past.
I am following behind the cart at this point, and just until they are out of my sight,
As you guys
I'm
probably
making
get
sure I know where they are.
like 60 or 70 feet away, Brainium probably having the closest eye on them, you would see one of the ones behind him kind of run up, or not run up, but right up beside him, kind of give him a shove, and you see him do a little like, when they're like physically arguing with each other. Alright. So, traveling the final leg of the trip, the walls, the warm embrace of Messidore's civilization encroaches closer and closer as your reward is right there on the tip of your tongue, just right there in the fingertips of your grasp. We will go ahead and end the session there.